Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Saved All Might Too Soon? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. They're talking about him. It's pretty obvious. Izuku was, after all, currently seated in the hard chair outside of Detective Tsukachi's office in the police precinct. The hallway he's in is silent aside from the low buzzing of the overhead fluorescent lights and the muffled sounds of Yagi-san and the detective arguing in his office. Izuku swings his feet idly, feet barely touching the scuffed linoleum below him. He's in this seat so often it might as well have his name on it. Izuku was brought in to give his statement for today's incident. Whatever. Izuku doesn't regret it. He saved a cashier and a konbini full of shoppers from a villain with a flooding quirk. He doesn't care what people think of him. He absolutely cares. He cares so much it hurts, but he's used to it by now. Izuku and his anxiety are old friends at this point. Yagi-san's voice raises, enough that Izuku can hear it clearly through the door. He's a good kid. It's not like he goes out looking for fights. I know. Tsukachi chuckles lightly. He's just a trouble magnet. There's some quiet shuffling and indistinct murmurs from Yagi-san. Izuku kicks his feet idly, sinking further into the uncomfortable plastic chair. If you don't, permanent record, he could? Another exclamation from Yagi-san. I know. Then quieter. I have an idea, just trust me. I just want what's best for him. Even if that means he can't be a hero? Izuku's blood runs cold. Trust me, is all Yagi-san says in response. Then the door to Detective Tsukachi's door is opening and the two of them step out. Izuku doesn't even bother trying to pretend like he wasn't listening. They both know him too well. Izuku gives Yagi-san a betrayed look. We're done here, Tsukachi says. He tries to ruffle Izuku's hair, but Izuku ducks out of the way. Tsukachi looks wounded. Kid, he says reproachfully. Let's go, Yagi-san, Izuku says, turning away from both of them. I'm all worn out from, saving people and apprehending a villain safely with no injuries and minimal property damage. Behind him, Yagi-san sighs and says goodbye to the detective. He catches up to Izuku once they're out of the station. Young Midoriya, Yagi-san starts. Don't. Izuku glares at the ground in front of him, refusing to look up. If you're going to tell me you don't want to give it to me anymore, at least wait until we get home. Yagi-san chokes. Don't want? My boy, you have it all wrong. I heard you and Tsukachi talking about me. But, Izuku raises his chin defiantly, looking Yagi-san in the eye. I don't regret it. I'd do it again knowing the consequences. Yagi-san's face softens. You'd save them knowing it would cost you your dream? Izuku nods firmly, though his eyes start to water. I understand if you think I'm too impulsive to be your successor, but I protected someone. That's more important to me than a quirk. I know, Yagi-san says gently. He looks around, noting the empty streets. We really shouldn't be talking about this here, but the quirk is still yours. I'm not changing my mind. But you told Tsukachi? I told him to trust me and now I'm asking the same of you, young Midoriya. Regardless of what Tsukachi and the rest of the police department think, I still believe in you. Izuku's tears spill over, silently rolling down his face. I thought you were mad at me. Yagi-san nudges him, prompting him to start walking home. Yes, I probably should be. I thought I told you after the last attempted robbery to leave it to the professionals. No one was doing anything. I had to step in. I trust your judgment. I am proud of you, my boy, even if your actions have caused me to modify my plans slightly. Izuku makes a questioning noise, looking up at Yagi-san, who shakes his head fondly. We're going to accelerate your training. I'll explain on our way home. What I'm asking of you is quite challenging. Do you think you're up for it? Izuku flashes him a small smile. When have you ever known me to back down from a challenge? Yagi-san chuckles. Well, then, how do you feel about taking the Provisional Hero Licensing exam next month? The what? Izuku met Yagi Tashinori on an unseasonably cold spring day. Izuku was 9 years old and quite the precocious kid. He was incredibly curious and extremely resourceful, a dangerous combination for a child. In an attempt to keep him from taking apart all their kitchen appliances or chasing after hero fights, his mom had bought him every quirk theory book she could get her hands on. No matter how interesting Dr. Jackson's theory and practical application of time manipulation quirks was, Izuku could not concentrate. Someone was moving in downstairs. The apartment below the Midoriyas had been empty for some time now. Izuku never really paid it any mind, he didn't really care that it was being filled now. It's just that whoever was moving in was making an awful lot of noise, and Izuku and his mom lived in the unit closest to the stairs. He could hear banging and muffled curses as what seemed like a dozen people trudged up and down, hauling furniture and boxes and whatnot. Who needed so many people to help them move in? Yagi Tashinori, apparently. According to the ID Izuku finds on the stairs. Izuku was not snooping. He was simply stretching his legs, and if he happened to decide to use the same stairway that's been crowded all afternoon, well, the building only has 2 staircases. And the elevators are broken. So, really, Izuku had no choice but to linger around the stairs leading to the floor below his apartment, peering into the hallway trying to spot the new tenants. Izuku's initial plan was to ask his mom to bake something for them to bring down as a welcoming present. The ID card was just luck. Izuku knocks on Unit 812, directly underneath Izuku's 912 apartment. The tallest living skeleton Izuku has ever seen opens the door. "Hi." Izuku smiles sunnily up at the man. He towers above. Izuku, hair dandelion yellow and standing out from his head in waves. He looks tired, deep dark circles around his eyes and heavy wrinkles along his forehead. He has deep laughter lines, though, and he answers Izuku's smile with his own small grin. "Hello there," the man says. "Can I help you with anything? I found this." Izuku presents him with his ID card. "My name is Midoriya Izuku and I live in the apartment above you. I came downstairs to see if you needed help moving in, since my mom says it's a hero's job to help people, and I found it on the stairs. What's your quirk?" "I'm studying to become a hero when I'm big, so I need to study as many different quirks as I can." Yagi-san blinks, looking a little overwhelmed. He takes the ID card from Izuku. "Young man, you are a lifesaver. Thank you for returning this to me." Izuku keeps smiling. "It's no problem." As for my quirk, Yagi-san's smile wobbles a little. "I'm actually quirkless, sorry I can't help you with your studies." Izuku's eyes widen. His smile grows impossibly wider. "I'm quirkless too." Yagi-san looks surprised. It seems like we have a lot in common, young Midoriya." "It was nice to meet you, Yagi-san. I'll bring my mom down to introduce you when she gets home," Izuku says before bounding off to go back to reading his quirk theory books. Yagi Tashinori turns out to be the coolest person Izuku has ever met. He's old, but despite the generational gap, he and Izuku instantly click. They joke back and forth like family before the month is through. Yagi-san reveals that he moved in because he got hurt at his last job. He gets guests coming and going all the time, but no one sees him as often as the Midoriyas. They start bringing him food, which eventually evolves into dinner once a week. Yagi-san heals up enough to open up his own shop. It turns out that he's just as big of a hero fan as Izuku is. He picks a unit about a block away from their apartment building and fills it with the coolest hero merch Izuku has ever seen. He seriously has no idea how Yagi-san gets his hands on most of this stuff, since some of the All Might merch is ultra rare. When Izuku turns 12, Yagi-san offers him a part-time job at his shop. Izuku, of course, jumps at the chance. For a year, things are good. Izuku goes to work with Yagi-san every day after school, and they trade bad puns and hero facts in between selling Best Jeanist shirts and pre-quirk comic books. On Thursdays, they go up to the Midoriya's apartment and help Inko with dinner. Izuku dodges Kaken and follows hero fights and joins a gym to try training for hero school. Yagi-san becomes Izuku's second emergency contact. Things are good. And then, on a hot summer day a couple weeks after Izuku's 13th birthday, a villain tries to rob Yagi-san's shop. Captain America could beat Endeavor in an instant, Izuku insists. Yagi-san laughs, slapping a palm onto the counter with so much force the cash register shakes. I'm not disagreeing, my boy. I'm just wondering why you're bringing this up. Because Izuku frowns. He was so sure he had a point. I think we were talking about Endeavor's lack of aim with long-range attacks? And how does a pre-quirk comic book hero factor into this conversation? Yagi-san asks, thoroughly amused. He just does. His shield has range and accuracy. Okay, but Kamui Woods has range and accuracy. Yagi-san humors him. Are you saying he? Yagi-san is interrupted by the bell on the front door chiming as a tall man in a long, blue coat walks in. Izuku turns back to the shelf he was supposed to be stocking, more or less tucked into a corner while Yagi-san deals with the customer. Hello. Welcome to... Empty the cash register, old man, the man says, hands inside his coat. I don't want to hurt you. Just do what I say quickly. Izuku's blood runs cold. Is this a robbery? The man's hands are inside his coat, potentially holding a weapon. Yagi-san resolutely doesn't look in Izuku's direction, but Izuku can feel him trying to telepathically tell him to stay out of sight. I'm sorry, Yagi-san says slowly as the guy, the villain, inches closer to the register. We just opened up and we haven't had any customers today. We only have about 2,000 yen right now. Bullshit. The villain steps forward threateningly. You have to have a safe or something. Yagi-san shakes his head. The villain growls, low in his throat. He starts taking his hand out of his coat. Izuku can't breathe. He needs to think. This is Yagi-san's life on the line. The same Yagi-san that helps him with his homework and buys him meat buns after school and gave him a job at his shop despite Izuku's tendency to ramble at customers. Yagi-san, who checks in on Izuku when his mom has to pull double shifts and tries his best to bring over dinner even though he really cannot cook to save his life. Yagi-san, who is quirkless and wise and strong in every way but physically, who taught Izuku that bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's pushing through despite the fear. Yagi-san, who is the closest thing to a father figure Izuku has ever had. Izuku has plans for everything. He plans out what to say to the cashier when ordering coffee. He plans out his homework before even opening his textbooks. He has a whole 10-year plan for how he's going to get into UA's hero course and get his hero license fully quirkless. He plans for every wild, unlikely scenario he can think of because his anxiety gets so bad if he doesn't go through every possible outcome, every way his life could landslide into disaster. But Izuku never planned for this. For once, he doesn't have a plan and he doesn't have time to think of one. All he can see is Yagi-san's lined, kind face looking resigned as he stares down the villain in his shop. Izuku doesn't think. He just moves. The villain hasn't noticed him yet, which rules out any kind of detection or sensing quirk. Izuku uses this to his advantage, rolling out from behind the shelf and staying close to the ground. He snags one of the metal poles with hooks on the end they usually use to take down merchandise from high shelves and bashes it into the backs of the villain's knees. The villain goes down, knees buckling. Before he has time to turn, Izuku leaps over him, putting himself between the villain and Yagi-san. Young Midoriya? Yagi-san gasps, reaching out to pull Izuku behind him. Izuku dodges, not taking his eyes off the villain and brandishing the pole in front of him like a sword. He turns his head slightly so Yagi-san can see the shaky smile on his face. Don't worry, Yagi-san. It's gonna be all right, Izuku says, with all the false bravado and confidence he can muster. I'm here. I won't let him hurt you. The villain, now back on their feet and glaring daggers at Izuku, scoffs. I don't usually kill kids, but I'll make an exception for you, brat, he spits. Should have just given me the money, old man. Midoriya, let me handle this, but the villain is already moving. He makes a swipe at Izuku, hands elongating and sharpening into spikes. Izuku manages to block most of it with the pole, but the villain's pinky grazes Izuku's knuckles. Izuku yelps, more out of surprise than pain. The villain steps forward. He has a height and weight advantage against Izuku and now, thanks to his quirk, he also has a greater reach. Izuku needs to end this fast. He wouldn't last long in a prolonged fight against this guy. Long, thin spikes for hands. Less surface area. Probably less dexterity. Okay, Izuku can work with that. Izuku shifts his grip on the pole and throws it at the villain like a javelin. The villain fumbles, his fingers scrabbling uselessly as he tries to prevent the pole from hitting him in the face. Izuku uses this time to pick up a small wire rack of magazines. While the villain discards the pole, Izuku lifts the rack and swings it at him in a downward arc, aiming for his hands. Just as he'd hoped, the villain's spiky fingers get caught in the rack, sliding through the metal grids as Izuku uses the whole thing to force the villain's arms down. Then, mustering all the strength he can, Izuku stomps down where the villain's hands meet the rack. There's a sickening crunch as the villain howls in pain, fingers bent at unnatural angles and still stuck. The villain is now pinned to the floor by his hands, Izuku using his whole weight to hold the rack down and avoid the villain's flailing legs. Yagi-san. Izuku whips his head around wildly, looking for him. Call for... I am here. There's a flash of movement and suddenly Izuku is blinking dumbly, tucked into the little alcove behind the front counter. Before him, in all his shining heroic glory, is All Might. Izuku can't breathe. All Might. Don't worry, young man. All Might booms. His voice is so loud it shakes the room. Izuku can feel the bass of it in his bones. I'll take it from here. You didn't. Excellent job apprehending this villain. The villain in question stares hopelessly up at All Might. Sheet. Of all the fucking... I just had to pick this store, huh? All Might pulls out quirk suppression HNDCFFS from his... not his belt. In fact, All Might isn't wearing his hero costume. He's dressed in a tight white t-shirt and blue jeans. The cuffs are clipped to one of his belt loops. He clips them onto the villain, whose fingers shrink back to their original size and shape, detangling him from the wire rack. They're purple and swollen, bent oddly in a couple places. Obviously broken. Izuku feels sick. He did that. He hurt someone. I was protecting someone, Izuku reminds himself, turning his head so he doesn't have to look anymore. I was protecting... Yagi-san. Izuku gasps. He searches the store frantically, looking for any sign of him. All Might's head jerks up. All Might. Izuku clambers over the counter, trying to see around the astounding breadth of All Might's shoulders. Have you seen a tall, thin man with blonde hair? He's the owner of the shop and... is he outside? Where? I mean Tashinori? Yagi-san is quite alright, son, or kid. Young citizen. Izuku stops his desperate search, looking up at All Might in surprise. You know Yagi-san? Well, was it just Izuku or did All Might's smile seem strained? Yes. In a way. Do not worry about him, he was not harmed. How do you know Yagi-san? Outside the shop's windows, police have started to gather. Oh, is he the one who called you? Why, you're so amazing, All Might. I didn't even notice you come in. Young Midoriya, please, All Might begs. What? Let me just hand this man over to the police and I will explain. Of course. Izuku jumps back, realizing how close he was. What? Izuku is so close to All Might. He was in All Might's way. Sorry. The next 30 minutes are a blur. Izuku gives his statement to the police, giving them every detail he can think of. It seems they don't believe him about the pole and the wire and breaking a man's fingers, and Izuku doesn't know whether to be relieved that he's not in trouble or annoyed that his one grand act of heroism is being invalidated like this. He keeps asking to see Yagi-san, but no one knows who he's talking about. Apparently, the neighboring plant store called for help, not Yagi-san. Izuku catches glimpses of All Might hovering nearby, but he's always surrounded by people. He towers over them, or coarse, golden hair sticking straight up, and even his elbows are above most people's heads. Izuku so badly wants to ask for an autograph, but a part of him is still horrified that of all the heroes to come to his rescue, All Might had to be the one to see Izuku seriously injure another person. What must he think of him? Izuku doesn't want to find out. Come to think of it, how did All Might know Izuku's name? The police can't let him go without an adult present, and since Yagi-san is missing and Izuku's mom is still at work, they end up just taking him to the station. On the way there, Izuku musters up the courage to ask one of the officers escorting him about the villain's health status. That criminal? The officer laughs, tossing Izuku a sharp grin over his shoulder. Through the grates separating the back seat from the front, Izuku can see him nudge his partner in the side. The kid wants to know if the villain is gonna be alright. His partner laughs too. Izuku feels very, very small. Don't worry, kid. He won't come after you, the officer says. You're quirkless. There are laws to protect people like you. Right? Protect Izuku. Tell that to the villain's shattered phalanges. Izuku doesn't actually have to wait at the station for too long. He meets Detective Tsukachi, who says he knows Yagi-san and will give him a call. Izuku had no idea Yagi-san was so popular. He's never seen him interact with anyone who isn't Izuku or his mother. Young Midoriya, Yagi-san exclaims when he arrives. I'm so sorry I couldn't get here sooner. I had things to take care of. It's okay. Izuku allows Yagi-san to fuss over him, checking him over for injuries and patting his head comfortingly. Izuku leans into the pats. Are you okay? I got so worried when I couldn't find you. I'm fine, my boy, no need to worry about me. I already called your mother, so she knows what happened. Let's get home. Yagi-san leads Izuku out of the police precinct as Izuku's mouth goes a mile a minute, spewing out the day's events as if Yagi-san himself wasn't there for most of it. Izuku mumbles his way through the description of the fight, not sure if Yagi-san witnessed Izuku's brutal takedown. He hopes not. And then, All Might? Izuku gasps. Wait, All Might? He said he knew you and also that he had to talk to you about something? Explained some. Yagi-san, are you okay? As Izuku rambled, Yagi-san's face had gotten progressively tighter and tighter until it was practically a flashing neon sign reading, stressed. Izuku peers up at him, concerned. I have never been the best at lying, ironically enough. Least of all to you, young Midoriya. You and your mother have been so kind to me and all I've repaid you with have been lies of omission. I hope you forgive me one day. I would hate to lose your friendship. Yagi-san? If this is about not telling me you knew All Might, I'm not mad. Well, I'm a little mad, but it's okay. I get why you wouldn't want to introduce us. No, I was going to wait until you were older to tell you. I, at least, wanted to offer you one for all closer to when you'd apply to high schools. But alas, life rarely goes to plan. Yagi-san, what are you talking about? Young me? Izuku, my boy. Yagi-san stops walking, turning to face Izuku fully as they stand in the middle of a deserted street. Behind him the sunset burns brilliantly over the horizon, haloing Yagi-san in gold. It catches on his blonde hair like fire, like a lion's mane, like a crown. You can be a hero. In fact, I believe you already are, in all the ways that count. If you would have me, I'd like to guide you along your path to heroism. I mean, I kind of already consider you a mentor, Izuku admits. But I'm not sure what you... Yagi-san disappears in a great puff of smoke. In the place he was standing is All Might. As the symbol of peace, All Might booms, then softens to a tone more familiar as Yagi-san, but mostly as someone who has witnessed your selflessness firsthand. Please allow me to gift you my quirk and support you as my successor. Izuku squeaks. There's another puff of smoke and All Might is replaced with Yagi-san. Izuku's brain refuses to process. What to the f-dash? I really shouldn't have transformed in public like this, but I thought a visual demonstration might get the point across faster. Come along, I'll explain my quirk and the rest on the way home. I'm sure you have some questions. Many questions, Izuku mumbles, thoroughly stunned. He numbly follows Yagi-san, All Might, down the street. So very many questions. Izuku gets over the initial shock fairly quickly. It probably helps that he'd been building up theories on All Might's, Yagi-san's, quirk for literally most of his life. If it wasn't a national secret, Izuku would be on the mighty forums right now, telling MightFan 2096 to eat their words. The real problem is convincing his mom to let Izuku, A 13-year-old with severe anxiety, almost no upper body strength, and a measly year of mixed martial arts training, to handle a 200-year-old stockpile quirk made of pure energy. Easy peasy. In Yagi-san's defense, he wanted to wait until Izuku was 15 at least. He explained as they walked back to their apartment building that he'd planned on revealing his true identity to the Midoriyas before Izuku started high school. He'd wanted all three of them to decide whether Izuku would want to wait until he was 18 and use his high school years to train secretly under All Might's guidance as an anonymous intern, or receive one for all in time for the UA entrance exam. Izuku still can't process that part. The part about Yagi-san always wanting to give one for all to him. In Izuku's mind, he can maybe see why Yagi-san would think Izuku was worthy after saving his life today, but the rest of it? The part about having a kind heart and natural charisma and a hero's instinct? When, if ever, has Izuku displayed any of those traits? Izuku is a shy, quirkless loser with dreams too big for his circumstance. That's it. That's all he's ever seen in himself. Yagi-san, All Might, seems to disagree. They both mutually agree to holding back on telling Inko that night. Izuku, because he was still in shock, and Yagi-san because he was worried both the villain attack and the one for all secret would be too much for Inko to handle. So they wait. A week, then 2, then they're edging into 3 weeks. Yagi-san gives Izuku a workout routine and tells him he'll have to start preparing his body to handle the quirk as soon as possible. It all comes to a head at family dinner night, which is really just Inko and Izuku hounding Yagi-san into coming over so they can make sure he's eating something other than instant ramen and convenience store dinners. Izuku and Yagi-san are tense during the entire meal, both shooting each other looks and silently urging the other to say something. Eventually, Inko breaks the silence. Izuku, Toshinori, Inko sighs, looking tired. I know. Izuku and Yagi-san look at each other, panicked. No. Izuku asks tentatively. Inko smiles. I know I work a lot, but I do notice things, Izuku. You've been different since the villain attack. The late afternoons, the new diet. You lift weights while studying. Mitsuki said she sees you jogging around the neighborhood most mornings. Inko turns to look at Yagi-san. You're training him to be a hero, aren't you? Izuku, who was fully expecting his mom to somehow have figured out the entire story behind One for All, slumps in relief. Oh, yeah he is. And neither of you thought to tell me? Izuku winces. Mom, it's my fault I asked Yagi-san to wait. No my boy. I am the adult in the situation, the blame is on me. You're right Inko. I should have asked for your permission to train Izuku. Inko's previously stern expression softens a bit. I trust that you only have the best intentions, Toshi. You've been kind to us for years, letting Izuku work in your shop and just being a good friend to him. But I have to ask, why Izuku, and why do you think you can train him? Izuku bites his lip. This is the hard part. Okay, he says slowly, don't freak out but I am here. In a puff of smoke, Yagi-san swells up into full All Might form. It's chaos. Bowls are knocked over. Izuku startles so hard he falls out of his chair. Inko screams. And then Midoriya Inko, Izuku's sweet, kind, loving mother, punches All Might in the face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Toshi, All, Toshinori. Yagi-san, now deflated back down to his normal size, waves away her apologies. No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have startled you like that, I just thought it would be better to show rather than tell. I really need to come up with a better way of telling people. I shouldn't have punched you. I don't know why, It's all right, Inko, Yagi-san reassures. Really, I get punched by villains daily, though I must say you have quite the impressive right hook. Inko looks like she might cry. Izuku steps in. Mom, meet All Might. Yagi-san gives her a dorky little wave. He, got hurt a couple years ago. Really badly. Remember when Yagi-san first moved in and there were all these people coming around all the time to help him out? Yeah. So, he got hurt and, it turns out his quirk is, well, it's not really his quirk. Actually, Yagi-san said he was born quirkless like me. Isn't that cool? So his quirk is actually That. Izuku, baby, I love you so much, but can you please tell me why All Might is having dinner with us? Quickly and with the least amount of words possible. Right. Izuku gathers himself. Yagi-san is going to retire as All Might soon and he wants to give me his quirk so I can be a hero. Inko blinks at him. Actually, I think I'm going to need more of an explanation. Allow me, Yagi-san gives Inko a tentative smile. I wish to transfer my power to young Midoriya because I believe him to be the next symbol of peace, or perhaps symbol of protection. We'll work on your title later. Izuku tears up. Inko drops her head into her hands and groans. We are going to work on communication skills for the both of you. Okay, explain this to me slowly and from the very beginning. 10 months later, Izuku starts his last year of junior high. He's been following Yagi-san's training schedule to the letter. After the first disastrous time he tried to speed up his progress and ended up with a sprained ankle. Izuku decided to just trust that Yagi-san knew his limits better than he did. Yagi-san has been rotating him in and out of different fighting styles. They haven't found one that Izuku likes any more than the others, but Yagi-san insists that it's perfectly okay to mix and match once he gets all the basics down. After all, All Might has always been a 1-2 punch kind of hero. They train his battle instincts along with his body. Yagi-san had been incredibly impressed with Izuku's quick thinking and use of his environment during the attack at the shop. He encouraged Izuku to keep thinking out of the box like that. Most of Izuku's time that isn't spent working out or doing homework is spent with Yagi-san and a variety of hero fight footage, doing little case studies on how the hero fought and what Izuku would do in every scenario. It's the best year of Izuku's life. He's been lonely for such a long time. Yagi-san and his mom have always been constants, but now Izuku has gym acquaintances and sparring partners, and even Detective Tsukachi, who lets Izuku go over closed cases to work on his analysis skills. Izuku's 14th birthday isn't spent alone, watching videos on HeroTube like every other year. This year, Yagi-san takes him on a jog along the beach at sunrise, and then lets Izuku tour the mighty agency in the afternoon. By Yagi-san's estimations, Izuku should be able to receive all for 1 in 11 months, giving him about a month to adjust before he starts school. It's all going perfectly. Which is, of course, when things start to go wrong. Would you like to explain why you stepped in front of the knife, Midoriya? Why? Officer, he was trying to stab her. I couldn't just stand by and do nothing. You could have been seriously injured, young man. You should have waited for a hero to handle it. She would have been stabbed. Izuku 5:12 p.m. Hey mom, I might be a bit late to dinner. Also, can you get some more bandages from the hospital? Meet 5:12 p.m. Izuku. What happened? Izuku 5:12 p.m. Nothing big. Just a couple scrapes. Meet 5:12 p.m. Izuku. Izuku 5:13 p.m. Someone tried to break into Unit 914 so I stopped them. I'm also at the police station, but don't worry, they're not charging me with anything. Laughing face vigilantism doesn't apply to quirkless kids. Red heart. Please don't be mad. Pleading face, I'm not hurt. Yagi-san is here and everyone is okay. Me 5:13 p.m. The three of us are going to talk when I get home. Read at 5:13 p.m. Hello. My name is Midoriya Izuku and I'd like to report a crime. Alright Midoriya, can you tell me what happened? There was an attempted mugging in Block 12. Attempted? I incapacitated the mugger. He was holding the victim. Excuse me, ma'am, what's your name? He was holding Azuma-san at knife point so I stepped in. None of us are hurt, but we may need some quirk suppression cuffs, as I'm unsure of the attempted mugger's quirk. Okay, we can have a pro hero and an officer at your location in 5 minutes. Thanks. In the future, please refrain from handling these situations yourself. Sir, attempted arson in block, Officer Hasegawa said when he got there with pro hero Triton. The fire was out and the villain was wrapped up in a fire-resistant blanket. Apparently, some quirkless kid tackled him before the fire could catch. Quirkless? What the hell? Muzudafu post at Muzudafu post 1H. Op ed, vigilantism on the rise? Muzutafu becomes city with highest civilian vigilante attributed arrests in prefecture. Full article, bit.ly 3m6vdef. 34 retweets 2 quote tweets 187 likes. Convenience store robber in block. Done. Midoriya called it in. That? Again. That kid is unhinged. You're telling me. Okay, so maybe it gets out of hand. Izuku is not doing anything illegal. In fact, he is literally just living his life. He just happens to exist in close proximity to what seems like infinite crime that he knows he has the training and the ability to neutralize. He actually, physically, cannot stop himself from stepping in. He tried to wait for pro heroes once, but it was 5 minutes into a truly amateur grocery store robbery and Izuku couldn't bear to watch the Ozaki's store get destroyed in a hero fight. They always give his mom a fair price for fresh fish. After the third time Izuku stops a crime, his mom and Yagi-san give up on pretending to be mad. The laws on vigilantism specifically mention the use of a quirk, is how Izuku argues it to them, and since I don't have a quirk? Yet, Yagi-san corrects. Yet, I am technically not breaking the law. Assault. Inko questions. Izuku shakes his head. Self-defense. Besides, do you think they would prosecute a poor, helpless, quirkless kid for defending himself against the big, scary villains? Izuku gives his mom his best puppy eyes. She snorts. You are surprisingly conniving, young man, she mock scolds. Even Yagi-san has stopped his fake disappointed stare and is instead shaking his head. Fondly. Only when it comes to saving people, Izuku says. Really, it's a miracle it's taken so long for someone to put their foot down when it comes to Izuku's borderline vigilante career. Detective Tsukachi probably has a soft spot for him. The last Konbini robbery was his limit, apparently. And now, Izuku needs to take the provisional hero license exam. As a junior high student. In a month. Great. Inko is on to them immediately after they come home from the police station. Oh, just spit it out, Tashinori. Inko says, picking up her glass of water. Nothing can be worse than, I want to give your son a centuries-old quirk so he can get into fights with dangerous criminals for a living, trust me. Okay. Yagi-san takes a deep breath in. I want Izuku to take the provisional licensing exam. Next month. Inko drops her glass. Licensing exam? Inko looks at them both, wide-eyed. He doesn't even have your quirk yet? Yagi-san winces. Yes, I know. You said it would be another 6 months before he'd be ready. I know. I didn't even think he'd be facing off against villains until after high school. Why does he need his hero license now? Izuku is building up a bit of a reputation, Yagi-san explains, amongst the police force. For vigilantism. He has a habit of stepping in when he sees trouble, a heroic quality, yes. And I believe that I've taught him enough to trust that he can handle himself with petty crimes, but no one outside of this room knows that. To the authorities, it looks as though Izuku is getting in the way. No one was doing anything. Izuku explodes. Even the police. They were just standing around waiting for a hero to show up, and the poor cashier was. It's just because I'm quirkless. I took care of the situation just fine. We know, Inko soothes. We know. Izuku, I'm so proud of you. The fact of the matter is that if this keeps happening they are eventually going to find something to charge him with. If he had a provisional license, however, they'd be much less likely to try to pin him down for vigilantism, even if he didn't have a pro-hero supervising him. Izuku nods. Yagi-san had explained all of this to him on their way home. Also, if Izuku had a license, Yagi-san continues, and this is something he had not told Izuku on their way home, he'd be allowed to work under the mighty agency as an intern. I could. Izuku whips his head around to his mom, begging for permission with his eyes. Can I? Interns are protected, right, Tashinori? Inko asks, face stern. And they are not allowed to go off fighting villains on their own? Of course, there are safety protocols and a lot of HPSC guidelines for interns. A lot of paperwork too. In fact, this might be better than our current training schedule. At least this way I can keep an eye on him. An intern. Izuku practically sparkles. The mighty agency doesn't take interns. You don't even take sidekicks. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Still need to pass your exam, and even as an intern there will be no combat. You'll just observe as I apprehend villains, okay? Izuku nods emphatically. All Might's first intern. What could possibly go wrong? It turns out, a lot of things can go wrong. There is so much paperwork. Mountains of it. The very first thing they do is change Izuku's quirk registry so it looks less suspicious than him registering for the provisional license exam quirkless and with All Might as a sponsor. That last fact alone is gonna turn some heads, so Yagi-san takes him down to the quirk registry the next day and they register his quirk as superpower. It turns out my body was too weak to handle activation, is how Izuku explains it to the registration secretary. I didn't even know I had a quirk. She, obviously, does not care, but it's good practice for lying to people's faces. Izuku is so bad at lying. He is good at planning and sneaking around and, sometimes, rarely, only if absolutely necessary, manipulating people, but he is so bad at directly lying. This isn't great considering he's sitting on Japan's most dangerous secret. After they register Izuku's quirk, Yagi-san has to swing by the Hero Public Safety Commission's office downtown to pick up the sponsor paperwork. Every Hero license examinee, be it for the provisional, full pro, rescue, or reserve hero exam, must have a licensed pro hero sponsoring them. Usually, the sponsor is a teacher at a hero school or a supervising hero at an agency. Since Izuku is not enrolled in any hero schools and isn't an intern or sidekick at an agency, he has to jump through a lot of hoops to even get his application considered. Or well, he would have had to, if his sponsor wasn't the #1 hero in Japan. It is a bit unfair, Yagi-san admits later, when he's treating Izuku to katsudon at the tiny family restaurant next to his hero merch shop. I feel bad using my influence like this, but we are on a bit of a time crunch. What would I have to do if you weren't vouching for me? Izuku asks. Well, Yagi-san starts listing things off his fingers. First, they'd make you enroll in a mandatory battle strategies and rescue procedures class. I think the course is about 6 months. Then, after passing that, you and your sponsor would have to go through 3 weeks of supervised training to ensure your sponsor was instructing you properly. Following that is the preliminary written exam that all non-hero school examinees take, and then the fitness test. And then you get put on the waiting list until all the hero schools have submitted their examinee rosters. If there's a spot at the next exam, you take the exam. Izuku feels dizzy. That's impossible. Yes, it's designed that way. Yagi-san frowns. Around the time I was in high school, the HPSC changed the guidelines to make it harder for non-hero school applicants. Previously, a lot of adults were taking the exams after going through regular high school. The HPSC made it so that now pretty much 95% of examinees are hero students. That's awful, Izuku says. What if you can't get into hero school? What if you can't afford it? Yagi-san nods. Exactly. It's not right. It's not. Izuku stands up. We need to do something about it. Ah, young Midoriya, sit down please. Yagi-san waves his hands, trying to placate him. While I agree that the HPSC is suppressing certain applicants, there's nothing you can do about it right now. Please, finish your food. Izuku sits down, angrily stuffing katsudon in his face. I have tried many times to loosen the HPSC regulations around the exams, Yagi-san says, but, well, there's only so much I can do, and after my injury. Izuku swallows. Yagi-san looks ashamed. I'll fix it, Izuku promises him. I'll get my license and follow your footsteps, and then when I'm #1 they'll have to listen to me. Yagi-san smiles and reaches over the table to ruffle Izuku's hair. I know you will, my boy. I believe you will surpass me. You are much more charismatic than I am. Izuku fumbles with his chopsticks. What? And me? Yagi-san, I can barely speak to other kids my age. I rehearse my coffee order in my head before ordering. Yes, but you will grow out of that. You're very magnetic, young Midoriya. People can't help but believe in you. Look at Detective Tsukachi and all the police at the precinct. Do you really believe they just let you get away with so much because they pitied a quirkless young man? Yes. Obviously. Yagi-san shakes his head. We'll see. One day you'll see all the qualities in yourself that I see now and you'll understand why I believe in you so much. Izuku tucks his face down and finishes his katsudon quickly, trying to hide how misty-eyed he's gotten. From the way Yagi-san chuckles and fondly ruffles his hair again, it doesn't work. Thanks to Yagi-san using his all-might privilege, the HPSC is only requiring Izuku take the written preliminary exam and the fitness test. He passes the fitness test easily enough. It's just a standardized fitness exam, like the kind they'd take in middle school, so no quirks. Izuku has been intensively training for more than a year, and was doing mixed martial arts before that. Plus, they conduct the test in a nice, private gym. No other students means no one's around to sabotage Izuku like what usually happens when he takes the exam at Aldra. The HPSC representative gives Izuku a pass and then informs him his written exam will be scheduled for a week before the actual exam. He's given an outline of what they're testing for and Yagi-san, all puffed up in his all-might form, is given a manual on what to teach Izuku. They're aiming to pass one for all to Izuku the day of the exam, which means he has to accelerate his training so he can be physically ready by then. Yagi-san is careful about making sure Izuku doesn't overdo it, but Izuku can see he's worried. Izuku's mom turns into a drill sergeant. She's always been his biggest cheerleader, save for a moment of doubt when he was first diagnosed quirkless. In the years since, she's made it very clear that she's proud of him. He can tell she's worried for him, and this manifests in her keeping careful watch over his schedule. She reminds him to do his stretching and conditioning exercises with as much intensity as she insists he takes breaks. In the lead up to Izuku's exam, she checks in on him even more often than she used to. On nights when he's gone particularly hard during training, she sits him down at the kotatsu and patches up any scrapes or bruises, massages his aching hands, and lets him talk about his day. These are Izuku's favorite nights. They're made even better when Yagi-san joins them, telling the two of them stories from his time in America. Izuku wonders if his dad has stories from America. The thought startles him one day, while he's studying. He hasn't thought about his dad in years. Yagi-san may be the best mentor and a shining beacon of heroism in Izuku's eyes, but he is, admittedly, not a great teacher. Izuku's mom catches him with a copy of Teaching for Dummies and teases him relentlessly for it. This leaves Izuku to where he is now, pretending to be studying English when he really has his combat strategies and procedures book on his desk. Yagi-san is trying his best, but Izuku has always learnt better on his own. Plus, Sato-sensei has given Izuku's class a free study PRD, so he might as well try to get some of his reading in. He's just getting into a passage on using an opponent's weight against them when a sharp voice calls him to attention. "What do you think you're doing, Midoriya?" Sato-sensei stands in front of Izuku's desk, looming over him. Izuku meets his eyes. "I'm studying," Izuku says. The whole class is watching them. Sato-sensei picks up Izuku's book. "Combat Strategies and Procedures," Sato-sensei reads out loud. A couple people snicker. "This doesn't sound like classwork, Midoriya." "You said it was free study." Izuku shrinks back in his seat. I have a test coming up." "Oh, I wasn't aware any teachers were giving combat exams." Sato-sensei sets down Izuku's book, his mouth pressed in an unimpressed line. "Please use your class time for productive work, Midoriya. I would hate to see you become another statistic." The statistics of unemployed quirkless people. Or the statistics of quirkless people who die before the age of Izuku's not sure which one Sato-sensei is referencing here. "Do something useful with your time," Sato-sensei continues. Izuku looks over to where the boy next to him has an issue of Weekly Shonen Jump open on his desk. Sato-sensei follows his line of sight, but doesn't say anything. "If you're going to keep entertaining your hero dreams, do it in your own time," Sato-sensei says finally. Izuku doesn't snap back like he'd like to. Instead, he mumbles out an apology and pulls out his actual English textbook. The class is still snickering at him. Takes a few deep breaths in and reminds himself that after school he gets to meet up with Yagi-san at his shop and the two of them will do some takedown drills. They'll go home and have a healthy dinner with his mom. If he's lucky, Yagi-san will look the other way when Izuku sneaks in extra dessert. Izuku makes it through the rest of the day. He's almost through the school gates when Bakugo corners him. Still holding on to your delusions, Deku? Izuku takes a deep breath in. He slowly turns around to face Bakugo, noting that his usual lackeys aren't with him. I'm just studying, Izuku says slowly. I'm not hurting anyone. But you're not, are you? Bakugo spits, getting closer. You're not just studying, or whatever. You're training. You think I don't notice you running around the neighborhood every morning like a dumbass? It's true that Izuku's jogging route passes Bakugo's house, but he figured his morning runs were early enough to escape notice. Apparently not. That's not all, Bakugo continues. You've bulked up, so you're obviously working out. You don't flinch back so much. You're faster. Izuku resists the urge to roll his eyes. Of course, Bakugo notices Izuku's training progress only in the ways that make it harder to bully him. Your creepy nerd notebooks too. You don't label them hero analysis for the future anymore. Izuku's surprised Bakugo noticed this. It's true. After saving Yagi-san and learning the truth about his quirk, Izuku stopped keeping for the future notebooks. He now has Battle Strategies Vol 1 and 2 volumes of quirk analysis. Not for the future, just quirk analysis. Bakugo watches him, eyes narrowed and calculating. I don't know what the F is up with you, if you're trying to cheat your way in somehow or what. But something's different. You're different. He makes it sound like a bad thing. I am different, Izuku replies with as much pride as he dares. Something flashes in Bakugo's eyes before he abruptly turns on his heel and leaves. Izuku sags with relief once he's gone. And Izuku knew that he was different. It's been a slow process, but he's noticed nonetheless. It's in the way he carries himself, shoulders back and chin up. It's in the way he speaks to people now, how his voice barely shakes anymore, how he sits up straighter. It's in the way he is slowly but surely taking Yagi-san off the all-might pedestal he's had him on since he was 4. Izuku knows all this, but it is nice to have another person acknowledge his growth, even if Bakugo didn't mean it as a compliment. But it sort of is a compliment, in a backwards, twisted way that Bakugo definitely didn't intend. Izuku is way past wanting validation from Bakugo of all people. He doesn't know what he wants anymore. An apology or just to be left alone, or maybe both. He doesn't know if he wants it to be a compliment, but it doesn't really matter. Because, whether purposefully or not, Bakugo has just acknowledged Izuku as a threat. It's about time. Izuku, predictably, passes the preliminary written exam with flying colors. The proctor had actually graded his exam in front of him, something that caused Izuku's anxiety to spike so much he thought he actually felt his soul leaving his body. In the end, he'd answered everything but 2 questions right, the one about right-of-way in traffic situations during an earthquake and the free response about switching a trolley's track to save 10 people instead of 1. Izuku had put down, save everyone or die trying, mostly because he was annoyed and slightly horrified thinking about what the HPSC thought was the right answer to an ethical dilemma like that. When the proctor read his answer, she shot him an incredulous look. To celebrate, Yagi-san decides he deserves a cheat day on his diet. He takes Izuku and his mom out to their favorite restaurant, a cozy little shop located by the beach. They spend the evening teasing each other laughing. It's the lightest Izuku's felt in a long time. He makes eye contact with Yagi-san. These days, his laughter lines are deeper. Izuku grins. The day of the provisional license exam dawns bright and early for Izuku. By 6 a.m., Izuku has already ingested a piece of Yagi-san's hair, yuck, and gone on a light run to wake himself up. His mom lets him help her out with breakfast, just so he can burn off the excess anxious energy, and Yagi-san spends the entirety of breakfast praising Izuku's supposed cooking skills. Since Izuku doesn't have a hero costume yet, Yagi-san assures him he has someone special working on it for him. He just dresses in typical workout gear, a dark green tracksuit with an all-might t-shirt underneath. Izuku makes sure to pick an old shirt just in case he ends up getting it dirty or torn. Yagi-san drives Izuku to Takoba National Stadium, where the exam is being held. They have to duck into an alleyway so Yagi-san can do his whole magical girl all might transformation thing. Then they check in with the exam coordinators, who give Izuku a whole stack of paperwork and waivers to sign. They take his picture for his license and Izuku knows he looks absolutely terrified in it. "Good luck, my boy," Yagi-san says as they lead Izuku away. "I believe in you." Then they tell Yagi-san to go home for a couple hours and Izuku gets handed a paper bib with an examinee number on it and deposited on the main stadium floor, among the rest of the participants. Yakuma Ramera, the tired-looking HPSC representative in charge of the exam, steps onto a raised platform in the middle of the stadium. He taps the mic a couple times, looking incredibly overworked. "Hello," he greets them. Despite his own lack of energy, the crowd of examinees respond with a cacophony of cheers and excited yells. "Welcome to the HPSC's Provisional Hero License Exam. We have a smaller batch than normal today, but that doesn't mean the test will be easy. Please take a moment to make sure your examinee number matches the one on the screen." The large billboard behind him lights up to display a series of names with numbers next to them. Izuku easily finds his name at the bottom of the list. There's a second column next to his participation number with another number in it, this one reading, "I'll explain the exam in a little bit. For now, please locate the examinee with the number in red next to your own number. They will be your partner for the exam." The crowd shifts as examinees try to track down their partners, some exploding into excited whispers or disappointed sighs based on who they were assigned to. Izuku keeps staring up at the billboard, unable to believe his misfortune. The exam is partnered. The one thing that Izuku didn't study for is how to work with someone his age considering, he hasn't had a positive interaction with a peer in about 10 years. This is not good. He's not even enrolled in hero school. What poor high schooler got assigned to be his partner? What if they hate him? What if they end up bullying him? Izuku prays for any deity out there to take pity on him and simply remove him from this plane of existence. Well, comes a voice from Izuku's left. Looks like they put the two outliers together. "How old are you, kid? 12? A new low for the HPSC." Izuku looks away from the board to see a young man, maybe mid-20s, sauntering up to him. He's tall, although almost everyone is tall compared to Izuku. He has black hair swept up and to the side with a single rainbow streak across his bangs. Unlike the other examinees, he's not wearing a brightly colored hero costume. Instead, he has on leggings and a black hoodie with body armor pads strapped onto his arms and legs. On his chest is a paper bib with the number 499 on it. "I'm 14, Izuku corrects warily. The guy rolls his eyes. "A baby." He walks right up to Izuku, getting into his personal space so he can stare down at him. "I knew the HPSC was training child soldiers, but yikes. Are you even old enough to walk home by yourself?" Izuku bristles. "You're one to talk. Aren't you a little old for high school?" The print under the guy's examinee number declares his school to be Shiketsu. Izuku would be impressed if he wasn't also immediately set off. The guy throws his head back to laugh. There's a jagged scar across his neck, like someone had tried, and failed, evidently, to slit his throat. "Believe me, I wouldn't go to hero school if you paid me. I'm Hero. Yes, I think it's ironic. No, I will not give you my family name." Izuku narrows his eyes. He points at Hiro's paper. "It says right there that you go to Shiketsu." "I don't go to Shiketsu," Hiro corrects, looking miffed. "I'm part of a villain and vigilante rehabilitation program. Like I'm a fucking wild animal or something that needs to be nursed back to health before being released into the wild." Izuku perks up, despite himself. He'd heard of the Shiketsu program, of course. It was super controversial when it was first implemented a couple years ago. Apparently, they take vigilantes and non-violent villains and teach them to not do crime? Izuku's not entirely sure. Last he heard, the program was fairly successful with a couple former villains going as far as giving media interviews to vouch for the program. "So, which are you?" "What do you mean?" Hiro gives him an annoyed look. "Villain or vigilante?" "What? A vigilante, obviously. You think they'd let a villain into this thing?" "Well, you did say it was a rehabilitation program," Izuku points out. so presumably, any villain they cleared would be reformed. Hiro lets out an exasperated sigh. I stopped a couple conbini robberies and this is my reward. I get to babysit some smart-ass toddler during the hardest exam of my life. Fucking spectacular. I told you I'm 14. Did you say you got busted stopping a conbini robbery? Yada. Heroes think petty criminals are below them, so someone's gotta protect the small businesses. What? You wanna lecture me too? No, Izuku giggles. Wow. What are the odds? What? Hiro snaps, obviously shifting from annoyed to genuinely said. And no, I'm not laughing at you. Izuku chuckles. It's just, that's why I'm here too. I stopped a conbini robbery, well, a couple, and now I have to take this exam. Hiro eyes him suspiciously. No sheet. Absolutely zero sheet, Hiro-san. Izuku flashes him a large, sunny grin. Maybe we have more in common than we thought. The only reason I didn't get charged with vigilantism is because I don't have a quirk. Hiro's eyebrows raise. You did that and you're quirkless. That's kinda badass, kid. Yeah, well. Izuku stops laughing, realizing he now has to lie to this man's face. Actually, I do have a quirk. I just, didn't at the time of the vigilantism, alleged vigilantism. Hiro looks even more intrigued. Sounds complicated. It's a good thing I only care about you for as long as my results on this test are dependent on you. Izuku's about to open his mouth to reply when the Yakumaru gets their attention again. Now, he mumbles, face entirely too close to the mic. If you've all found your designated partners, we'll begin explaining the exam. The exam is split into two parts. For the first part, all teams will be released into a maze. Each examinee will be given a belt with 2 flags attached, and this belt must be worn at all times or you will be disqualified. If you lose both your flags, you fail. If your partner loses both flags and is eliminated, you automatically lose one of your flags, even if it's your last flag. Treat your partner like a civilian you need to protect. A murmur sweeps across the crowd of examinees as they absorb this information. Izuku gulps. His partner tolerates him at best. How is he supposed to pass this exam? No points will be given if you eliminate other examinees, but the maze walls will light up with paths towards resources or hiding places. The exam goes until only half the teams remain. If Izuku is the last participant at number 500, then 250 people need to be eliminated until the exam is finished. That sounds about right. The passing rate for the provisional license exam has always hovered around 45%, with numbers fluctuating across the 3 test sites. Takoba National Stadium services both UA and Shiketsu along with some other high-profile hero schools, so the numbers coming out of the Takoba exams are usually closer to 50%. If trends continue, then pretty much everyone who passes the first portion will pass the second. We'll explain the second portion of the exam to those who remain. We'll give you 15 minutes to prep, scatter across the maze, whatever, before we start the exam officially. Can everyone please gather a little closer to the central scoreboard? Everyone shuffles in closer, gathering into a crowd. There's a loud scraping sound and around them, rising from the concrete floors of the stadium, are tall, metal walls. The walls go up about 4 meters and are completely smooth save for randomly interspersed intercoms. The ceiling of the stadium retracts to reveal the open sky above them. If you have a flying quirk or any similar ability that allows you to go above the maze walls, we don't care. Use them, or don't, just know that if you can see your opponents, they can see you too. Well, that's fucking unfair, Hiro mumbles next to Izuku. What's stopping anyone from flying up and just chilling up there the entire time? Or burrowing down if you have that kind of quirk? I'm guessing that's why they assigned partners. Izuku looks around at the other examinees. There aren't any visible digging or burrowing quirks that Izuku can see, but a fair number of examinees have anatomy or costumes that could be flight-related. They probably put people with high mobility with people with low mobility. If you let your partner fail, sure, you could hover indefinitely, but you'd be down to 1 flag which could easily be taken while you're hanging out in the open air. Same goes for hiding out underground. Plus, there's no telling what quirks people have. Anyone could. I didn't ask for a novel, you rug rat, Hiro says, but he tilts his head consideringly. Is that your quirk? What? The analysis sheet you just did. Is that it? No, Izuku bites his lip. It's complicated. Like I said, look, I'll use it if I have to, but I don't have great control over it. Hiro huffs. Fucking spectacular. Once the walls are done rising into place, Yukumaru gets everyone's attention again. Some ground rules. No maiming or permanent injury to other examinees. No calling for outside help. No stealing flags from others and attaching them to your own belt. No plagiarism. How would they even? Izuku mutters. No excessive force, but do what you need to. Intercoms are on the maze walls should you need to call a staffer for guidance out of the maze after being eliminated or, in case of emergency. We will be watching carefully, so don't kill each other. I'm going to go take a nap. With that, Yukumaru steps off the raised platform under the billboard and shuffles away. Flag belts get passed around. Izuku can hear distant rumbling beyond the walls closest to them, which he assumes must be some buildings and other structures clicking into place inside the maze. Izuku's suspicions are confirmed when a half-dozen structures rise all around them. It's gonna be a bloodbath, Hiro says, pulling Izuku's attention back to him. They're gonna make us kill each other. What? Izuku looks around at the other examinees, huddled in groups together and laughing. Prospective heroes joking around together like any other group of high school kids. Think it. It's the last provisional license exam of the academic year. Most hero schools, with the exception of UA and sometimes Shiketsu, have their students take the exam towards the end of their second year. If you fail, they make you take a training course that you can test out of directly. That means, if you're taking the exam now in September, you're most likely a third year that failed it back in the first term in June and you couldn't pass the training course. As Hiro speaks, Izuku takes a closer look at the other examinees. Now that he's looking for it, all Izuku can see are the way their smiles are sharper than would be natural. The jokes seem more prodding, body language artificially relaxed. Izuku gulps. They're desperate. I'm sure there will be a couple taking it for the first time like you and I, but for a lot of them, this could be their last chance to take it with the support of their schools. Oh, Izuku says, suddenly realizing something. Oh, they're going to go after us first. Hiro gives him a short nod. Now you're getting it. It makes the most sense to group up with people you know. Plus, no one wants to see their friends fail. And, the organizers paired us up, Izuku says. The only two outsiders. Bingo! The Public Safety Commission representative calls the beginning of prep time over the loudspeakers. The big screen in the middle of the stadium displays a 15-minute countdown. Immediately, everyone scatters, disappearing into the maze. Hiro and Izuku take off down the path closest to them, running towards a large, industrial-looking building. We need to find a place to lay low, Hiro huffs. They reach a fork in the road, choosing to go right and hoping it leads them to the building. High ground would be preferable, that way we can see the rest of the maze. Other people will be thinking the same thing, Izuku points out. Yeah. Hiro grimaces. We can count on any third years from Seijin and Ketsubutsu to go after each other first. There's a pretty intense school rivalry there. As if on cue, there's the sounds of distant explosions somewhere to their left. Izuku squawks in surprise. But there's still prep time left. The exam hasn't even started. No rules on destroying infrastructure during prep, Hiro answers. I told you, kid. A bloodbath. Hiro and Izuku spend the rest of the 15-minute prep time working their way towards the industrial building. They hit a couple of dead ends and circular paths, but eventually the narrow metal hallway opens out into a small clearing with a 3-story building in the center. The building is drab gray concrete with several pipes and exposed electrical lines running along the outside. Thankfully, they haven't run into any other examinees. Let's get to the roof, Hiro says. They circle the building but don't find any windows or doors. On the far side of the building is a line of metal gas tanks with bright warning labels. They're about as tall as Hiro with the diameter about equal to Izuku's arm span. The tops come up to a taper with a release valve. A couple are labeled with flammable or corrosive material stickers. They loop around the building twice before realizing there really are no windows or doors. Izuku proposes scaling up using the crisscrossing network of pipes on the walls of the building, but Hiro vetoes it. The only fast way down would be falling 3 stories, he says. If we get caught up there by someone with a mobility quirk, we're basically sitting ducks. What do we do then? Izuku looks at the maze around them. The only entrances to the clearing are the one they came out of and one directly opposite to them, facing the gas tanks. Someone's bound to come here, after whatever's going on over there finishes. The explosion they'd heard earlier came from an artificial mountain on the opposite side of the stadium. From this distance, Izuku can count at least 20 teams battling it out on the cliff face. No telling how many were fighting on the ground where they can't see. Hiro squints at the horizon. Then he looks back at Izuku. How good are you with hand-to-hand? I'm alright, I guess. Izuku has improved a lot since he started, but he can still only last about 5 minutes against Yagi-san's all-might form. He thinks that's probably good, considering Yagi-san is the #1 hero, but he's also not had a chance to spar against someone his own size in a while. Alright like you can hold your own, or alright like you're gonna go down after one punch? Hey. I told you I stopped konbini robberies, too. What makes you think I'd go down easily? You're tiny, Hiro deadpants. So, you either know how to use your size to your advantage, or everyone you've fought so far has underestimated you enough for you to get a lucky hit in. Izuku bristles. I can take care of myself. Besides, I'm not here with a school sponsor. So, Izuku says, tilting his chin up, I had to get a pro to vouch for me to take the exam. Hiro smirks. Ah, so you do have a backbone. Help me move these gas things. Together the two of them manage to drag 2 of the gas tanks away from the building wall to block off the maze entrance they came out of. It's not perfect, but it will at least slow people down. They've just pushed the second tank into place when an announcement sounds out from the intercoms around them. There are now 375 examinees remaining. Also, this is just a reminder that maiming is not allowed. Izuku grimaces. These are supposed to be future heroes. Why do they need reminding to not permanently injure other examinees? Looks like we're halfway there, Hiro grunts. He waves Izuku over to follow him to the other clearing entrance. The winners of that big team fight are probably gonna start looking for other teams to eliminate, which means everyone in the maze in between us and that mountain are gonna start pushing this way. Izuku nods in agreement. So, are we just gonna wait here and hope to catch them by surprise? Yup, Hiro says, popping the P. Hopefully, 125 more people get eliminated before someone comes here and we pass by default. In the meantime, we just wait for some dumbass to come running in and we ambush them. They settle along the wall so they won't be seen by anyone running into the clearing. They wait for a long time, but there's no sound coming towards them. After a couple minutes, a bright red laser shoots up into the sky close to the center of the stadium, followed by the call that there are now 62 examinees remaining. While they wait, Hiro doesn't speak to Izuku. He doesn't even look in his direction, so Izuku takes this opportunity to study him. His hero costume, although Izuku guesses it's probably just what he wore as a vigilante, is plain. The padding makes sense now that Izuku knows he was a vigilante. He probably keeps his outfit light and functional so he can move around the city easily while avoiding detection. He has a black utility belt clipped around his waist that Izuku didn't notice earlier. It has a couple empty holsters and loops. Izuku wonders if it's for weapons and support items that he couldn't clear with the HPSC for the exam. Hiro can't be younger than Izuku wonders what the HPSC was thinking, pairing up the oldest and youngest examinees. Most likely, they were thinking Hiro would carry Izuku through the exam and save them from having to fail All Might Sponsi. The thought makes Izuku ache with frustration. Even with All Might's clear support and all the paperwork and preliminary tests he had to go through, they still underestimate him. What? Hiro barks, shaking Izuku out of his thoughts. What's up? He must have noticed Izuku staring. Nothing. Just spit it out, kid. You're mumbling and it's creepy. Izuku flushes. Sorry. It's just... Izuku cuts himself off. Hiro hasn't exactly been friendly, and Izuku knows he can be kind of annoying when he starts asking questions. He's just so interesting. The only thing Izuku knows about vigilantes are whatever tidbits he can get from hero forums, all of it anecdotes. The mainstream media doesn't like to cover vigilantes since they are, technically, breaking the law. A couple heroes have even started campaigns to take down some of the well-known vigilantes. Izuku has so many questions. Hiro looks more and more annoyed as the silence stretches on. Izuku probably shouldn't PSS off his partner, considering his performance on this exam is directly related to whether or not the two of them can work as a team. But Izuku can't help it. Curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back, right? Izuku is about 80% sure Hiro won't kill him for annoying him. So, vigilantism? Izuku asks. Hiro groans, side-eyeing him. Don't start. Just what was it like? Izuku presses. Being a real vigilante? The stuff I did was unplanned and really just kinda coincidental. You know, once I literally ran into a villain's knife. Thank God for good reflexes. Yeah, can't imagine what I'd do if you weren't here with me today, Hiro deadpants. Izuku ignores him. But you were a real, working vigilante, right? Where did you operate? Can you tell me your vigilante name? Do you know the crawler? Not every vigilante knows each other, thus. Hiro huffs. But, yeah, I worked with him once. I operated mainly in the Minato ward in Tokyo. Wait, you're not gonna snitch on me, right? I'm supposed to have renounced my illegal ways. Izuku mimes locking his lips with a key. I would never. I think it's really cool. Hiro presses his mouth into a thin line, looking like he's trying not to laugh. You know, that gesture loses its impact if you immediately start talking after doing it. I won't tell anyone. Tell me about all your cool vigilante adventures, please. Hiro chuckles. Alright, well, it's actually a lot of waiting for bad things to happen. I was never the most well-connected, so a lot of my information was secondhand or shit I just accidentally ran into. It started as just a way for me to protect my neighborhood, you know? Heroes were coming around less often, and a lot of fights got recategorized as just crimes instead of villain attacks, so the pros stopped wasting their time with us. What's the point of a fight if it doesn't boost your hero rank, right? Izuku nods. I read an article once comparing the crime rates in blocks with and without hero agencies and how their rankings fluctuated with the rates. I can send it to you if you'd like. No, thanks, Hiro says flatly. Anyway, it wasn't fun, or whatever most people think it is. I didn't do it because I wanted to be a hero or anything like that. I literally have a degree in accounting. Oh. Then why? I knew how to fight, Hiro shrugs. I took classes when I was younger, for self-defense. And it was my neighborhood, my home. No, I was gonna ask why you decided to take the exam, then. If you don't want to be a hero? Hiro sighs. In the Shiketsu program you graduate either by becoming a crime consultant for the police or by getting your license. Cops. Plus, I worked with a couple underground heroes, so it's not like it would be a huge change. The only difference between me and them was this fucking license, so I might as well get one. SCKIS to be up against a bunch of kids though, I feel like it's unfair. Izuku considers this. Not really, Izuku rationalizes. I mean, they're here for a provisional license, right? So, the assumption is that after this they'll be able to fight villains. They should be prepared to fight against people who are older with more experience. Hiro slides him a sideways look. That's pretty mature of you, kid. Izuku rolls his eyes. I'm not even that much younger than the other examinees. A year or two in hero school makes a big difference, squirt, Hiro says, but he doesn't look as annoyed as he did earlier. You must have done something pretty impressive to get a sponsor. Hiro is obviously fishing for information, but it's not like Izuku can just tell him that he saved the #1 hero from a villain attack. Luckily, Izuku is saved from having to lie by a loud clanging noise down the maze path leading to them. Izuku and Hiro press themselves up against the wall on either side of the entrance as a pair of examinees come barreling through, completely missing Izuku and Hiro. Hiro darts out, sweeping his foot out to trip the examinee closest to him. He goes down with an ungraceful squawk, briefly getting tangled in his cape. Izuku launches himself at his partner, a girl around his height with a purple bodysuit for a costume. She has no time to react as Izuku swipes at her belt and tears away one of her flags. Hey! Izuku backs away quickly, keeping his back to the building as he sizes up his opponent. Her bodysuit has cutouts along her shoulders and arms, and the front has a little cartoon hedgehog. Or maybe a rat. Or a porcupine? Porcupine. As soon as Izuku realizes what her quirk must be, he dives to his right, barely dodging a volley of spikes that launch out of the girl's arms. "A hole," she yells at him, preparing another round of quills. "Sorry." Izuku yelps. She launches the quills at him and he rolls out of the way, getting nicked on the cheek in the process. "It's nothing personal." "Hold still, kid." She smirks at him as more quills grow out of her skin, this time closer together until it looks like she has very sharp, long fur along her arms. "It won't hurt if you get hit, I promise." "Whoa, can you control the density of your quills?" Izuku gasps. "That's so cool." "Midoriya." Hiro barks. He's wrestling with the cape guy, whose quirk looks to be wind control based on the mini tornado surrounding them. "Stop trying to befriend the competition." "Right." Porcupine Girl has been steadily backing away from Izuku, which tells him that she's probably not used to close combat. She most likely mainly uses her quirk as long-range coverage, ironic since Izuku thinks she would make a fantastic close-range fighter. She's basically a walking cactus, imagine getting punched by that. Izuku thinks quickly, rolling under her next attack and popping up close to her. She's clearly not expecting it since she takes a startled step back. Izuku dodges a sloppy right hook and in a flash, he has her other flag in his hand. "Examinee number 289, you have been eliminated. Please follow the red exit lights." The metal walls of the maze light up with a thin line of red light, leading out of the clearing. Porcupine Girl glares at him. "You're on your own, Woodwind," she tosses over her shoulder. Izuku looks to where Hiro is still grappling the other guy. "Sheet, does that mean I'm down to 1? Hiro flips them and straddles the guy's chest. He tears away one of his flags. "Examinee number 290, you have been eliminated. Please follow the red exit lights." Woodwind lays on the floor despondent as Hiro gets off of him. Hiro offers his hand to him, which he takes. "Hey, some advice," Hiro says before the guy leaves. "Ditch the cape. It would have been really easy to strangle you to death." Woodwind looks briefly horrified before he nods and disappears behind the corner. "Sheet, there goes our element of surprise." Hiro sighs, leaning over his knees to catch his breath. Izuku begins gathering Porcupine Girl's leftover quills. If they run into anyone on their way out, they'll warn them to be careful. Izuku gnaws on his lip. He got lucky this time, since his opponent's quirk was kind of obvious. The next pair fight, or team, if people are still grouping together, could go worse. "What are you doing with those?" Hiro gestures down to the bundle of quills in Izuku's hands. "Oh, these." Izuku hands half to Hiro, smiling cheerfully. "She basically gave us free weapons. They're not really heavy enough to use as throwing knives, but at the very least we could surprise someone by throwing a couple in their direction." Hiro nods, looking impressed. "How resourceful of you. Good job, kid." Izuku, who is not used to receiving praise from people who aren't Yagi-san or his mom, beams. Another announcement rings through the stadium informing them of only 20 more eliminations left until they all pass. Hiro and Izuku barely have time to let out a relieved sigh when someone crashes into the clearing, running directly into Hiro, sending him flying into the side of the building. "Steamroller, here to crush you and lead my team to victory." After bulldozing over Hiro, Steamroller, what a hero name, honestly, sets his sights on Izuku. Izuku manages to dodge enough that Steamroller only clips his shoulder, but it hurts. Izuku stumbles and falls to his knees while Steamroller hurtles right past him and into one of the walls of the maze. He steps back from the dent he created in the metal and flashes Izuku a wide, sharp grin. In his hands is one of Izuku's flags. "Hiro." Izuku backs up to where Hiro is leaning against the building, groaning. He doesn't turn his back on Steamroller. "Are you okay?" "Sorry, he got one of my flags." "I'm okay," Hiro coughs out. He straightens as 3 more examinees come into the clearing. "Izuku." immediately shifts his body so he's in front of Hiro, who still looks a bit dazed. "Hi," one of the newcomers say. She's shorter than Izuku with honey blonde hair that falls almost all the way to the floor. It must have something to do with her quirk, otherwise she wouldn't leave it down to get potentially caught in battle. The second of the two is a tall girl who seems to shimmer in front of them like water on a hot day. She shifts from foot to foot, looking at her companions. "Let's just get this over with. Live a little, optics. If we're gonna win, we might as well have some fun," the last of them says. He's taller than Hiro and his costume makes it look like he's been wrapped in tin foil. "Crap. Form 2, not great." Hiro grimaces. Tin foil guy smirks. "We should thank you two for taking out Woodwind and Spike," he says. "That was you too, right? Ugh, she is going to be so annoying on the bus back to campus." Steamroller grins. "She's always annoying." The four of them laugh. Izuku and Hiro exchange looks. "Should we run?" Izuku whispers. "I can make a distraction. I don't think we could get past them." "All right," the blonde one claps her hands together. "Let's do this." Immediately, Steamroller begins running, but it's not towards Izuku and Hiro. Instead he sprints full speed at his blonde friend. As he gets closer her hair whips out to wrap around one of his biceps. He runs circles around her, tethered by her hair, until she launches him at Izuku and Hiro, slingshotting him towards them at breakneck speed. Izuku and Hiro dive in opposite directions and Steamroller nearly runs them over. When Izuku comes up out of his roll, he sees another flag clutched in Steamroller's hands. For a brief, horrifying moment, Izuku thinks it's his. Then he hears Hiro curse. F-. Hiro and Izuku are now on opposite ends of the clearing, separated with their four opponents between them. "We're down to 2, kiddo. No mistakes, alright?" "Right." Izuku nods firmly. Tin foil guy and optics break away from the other two to face him down. "Hey, aren't you a little young to be taking this exam?" Tin foil guy says. His hands start to glow, like metal being heated up. "I feel kinda bad beating up a kid," Optics says. She shimmers, shifts, and then Izuku's eyes start to burn. He yelps, quickly tearing his gaze away from her. Okay, that's going to make fighting her hard. He makes sure to keep her in his peripheral, not looking directly at her as he shouts back. "I deserve to be here just like anyone else." Tin foil guy scoffs and then charges at Izuku, hands outstretched. Izuku ducks under his arms instead of rolling to the side like he usually would. Izuku stomps on the guy's instep and then uses one of the quills in his hand to puncture the guy's costume. Immediately, steam leaks out of the hole Izuku made and the guy's hands lose some of their red-hot glow. So, Izuku's guess was right. The costume works as insulation for his heating quirk, which will now be less effective since he's losing heat into the environment. Izuku dances back as the guy makes swipes at him. Over the guy's shoulder, Optics makes an appearance. Izuku's eyes are automatically drawn to the movement and before he can stop himself he looks directly at her. It doesn't hurt immediately, but as soon as they make eye contact the burning in Izuku's eyes starts. She must be able to turn it on and off. This pattern continues for a while, with the tinfoil guy trying to get in close enough to Izuku to touch him and Optics hanging back to catch Izuku's attention. Izuku sweats and pants, pulling out every evasive maneuver he's learned over the past few years, trying to maintain concentration while also checking in on Hiro's fight with Steamroller and the hair girl. If either of them get taken out, it's over. Finally, the tinfoil guy makes a mistake. He leaves his right side open while lunging for Izuku and Izuku takes the opening. He quickly lands a solid punch to the guy's stomach and snatches at one of the flags around his waist before rolling back. "You little sheet," he hisses, doubled over. Optics comes in close to check on her partner and Izuku backs away, creating distance. "Optics, on my back," the guy snaps. She doesn't hesitate to jump on his back as the guy crouches down to press his palms to the ground. What? Faster than Izuku can process, a large, red circle expands out on the ground from where the two of them are. When it reaches Izuku, the soles of his shoes start to melt. Izuku yelps, hopping from foot to foot. The heat is intense through his half-destroyed sneakers, and he doesn't want to find out what will happen when his shoes melt through completely. As quickly as he can, Izuku runs towards the partners and shoves as hard as he can. They topple over, and as soon as the guy falls, the heating stops. "Your quirk is really cool," Izuku tells him, tackling Optics to the ground and ripping free one of her flags. "But Hiro said I'm not allowed to become friends with the competition." The tin foil guy screams in rage as Izuku and Optics wrestle, Izuku with his gaze focused on a point in the horizon to avoid looking directly at her. Tin foil guy doesn't bother trying to help out his partner, and instead marches over to one of the large, pressurized gas containers. "Let her go," he threatens, glowing hands pressing against the container. "My quirk works on concentration. If you let her go, I'll stop heating up this tank and maybe it won't explode." Izuku's eyes widen. The gas tank is huge, and there's no telling what kind of gas it contains. If it's hydrogen, it would only take a small amount of energy to ignite it. Izuku immediately rolls off Optics, dodging her last swipe at his flag. "Stop!" The tin foil guy rushes towards them, scoping up his partner and heading for the exit. He calls Steamroller and his partner back towards him, blocking the only exit to the clearing. "Surrender your remaining flags to us, or I blow up the tank," he shouts at them. Hiro looks at Izuku. His quirk, Izuku rushes to explain. "Some kind of heating with his hands? He said it's based on concentration? The gas tank is gonna blow." Sheet. There's not enough information. There are too many variables. Izuku has no idea if the guy was bluffing about heating up the tank. He doesn't know if knocking the guy out will cancel his quirk, or if he and Hiro can even take the four of them out before it blows. There's a way out of this without conceding. He knows it, he just needs time. He needs time to think. The gas tank creaks ominously and tin foil guy's brow is furrowed with concentration. Izuku just needs more time. Hiro looks at him, eyes wide with fear. "What do we do?" "There's no time." Izuku takes a deep breath, reaches into the crackling mass of energy inside him, and pulls. Green lightning arcs off of him in erratic lines, sinking into the concrete and equipment around them. Izuku's right arm glows from the inside out, illuminating his veins and casting the maze around them in a neon fuchsia haze. As quickly as he can, Izuku grabs the tapered top of the gas tank. It weighs more than Izuku thought it would, and thanks to the guy's quirk, it burns the skin off his palms. Izuku doesn't give himself time to register the pain. Instead, he twists his arm back and throws it as far up as he can. From inside the observation deck, the Hero Public Safety Commission watches as a star is born. They will remember this. The tank soars up over the open ceiling of the stadium. It seems to hover for a second, a dot of glinting metal against a pale blue sky, before it explodes. The explosion is loud and close enough that it grabs everyone's attention. Pieces of metal start to rain down on the stadium, thankfully small enough to not do too much damage. It was a large explosion. Izuku wouldn't be surprised if they found debris outside the stadium. "What were you thinking?" Izuku whirls on the boy. "The shrapnel alone would have killed us. Not to mention the actual force of the explosion itself." I wasn't," the guy gasps, looking at Izuku horrified. "Why your arm?" "What?" Izuku looks down and, oh f-. His arm is mangled, hanging off his body limply and swollen a sickly deep purple. It's bent in sheet, 3 different places that Izuku can see, not to mention the mess of angles his fingers are in. Blood drips from a point in his forearm where the bone has broken skin. It's horrific. "Sheet kid." Hiro rushes to his side, kneeling so he can get a look at it. "Okay, don't panic." "I'm not panicking." Izuku squeaks, definitely panicking. Then he adds, a little hysterically, "Oh man, I really liked this shirt. F-. No wonder you haven't used your quirk until now." Hiro reaches into a pouch attached to his belt, pulling out some gauze. "Does it do this every time?" No. Izuku still can't look away from his arm. This was the first time." "The first time you broke your arm like this?" Hiro asks. He begins gently wrapping Izuku's arm in gauze. Izuku has no idea how that's going to repair his fragmented arm. "First time I've used it." Hiro looks up at him, stunned. "What the f-? By now the kid with the hot hands quirk and his team have retreated, probably thinking Izuku and his partner are out of the race. A number of emotions flicker across Hiro's face before it settles on grim determination. Okay, that's a can of worms that we are opening later. I need to immobilize your arm and then we can call for help. By now, the entirety of Izuku's arm is lightly wrapped in gauze. I didn't tell you my quirk earlier because I wasn't sure if you were going to betray me. What? Izuku gasps, hurt. But we bonded. Nothing personal, kiddo. When you're a vigilante, you tend to be wary. I wasn't sure if the whole wide-eyed, earnest, you can do it attitude was a front or not. Hiro, Izuku whines. Stop. Clearly I was wrong, okay? Anyway, my quirk is called Tough Touch. I can harden any non-sentient thing I touch with durability ranging from hard plastic to bedrock, depending on the amount of energy I expend. I'm gonna harden this gauze around your arms so you don't do more damage when you move, okay? That's so cool. Izuku's mind is already going a mile a minute. How long do the objects stay hard? Does it affect their density? What about? Can't believe I actually thought you were a master manipulator. Hiro taps the gauze and instantly Izuku can feel it stiffen around him. It doesn't hurt? Well, it doesn't hurt any more than his shattered arm already hurts. Hiro gently taps his knuckles to test the gauze and then nods, satisfied. He gets up and stumbles over to the nearest intercom along the wall. Hello. Yes, examinee number 499, comes the scratchy voice through the intercom. My partner has been injured, Hiro says. Is there a way we can get him some medical attention? Do you wish to formally dissolve your partnership? What? You two were assigned as partners, but if your partner is conceding and you don't wish to, you may abandon him at this point. We'll send a representative down to get him and you can continue with your exam. Abandon? I'm not conceding. Izuku yells. He ignores the pain radiating from his right side and nudges Hiro aside so he can get to the intercom. I'm not. Are you saying if I consent to medical attention right now I fail the exam? Well, naturally. Hiro swears. Kid, you need to? No. I need to pass this exam. I can keep going, I'll just... Just what? Pass one of the hardest standardized tests in the country with only one arm and no reliable quirk? Kid, you're gonna hurt yourself more. Look, I'm not gonna make it far by myself anyway. We'll just wait for an escort? No, Izuku says firmly. He turns to Hiro, fire glinting in his eye. I can do it. You heard the announcement, there's only 265 examinees left. 15 more and we pass. I can get help in the break between exam sections. Doesn't even hurt that bad. That's the adrenaline talking. Hiro replies, stunned. You really are something, aren't you, Midoriya? Deku, Izuku says, making a decision. Deku, my hero name, or it will be. After we pass this exam and get our licenses. Deku. Hiro raises an eyebrow. I'm reclaiming an old nickname. Izuku flashes Hiro a feral grin. Besides, it's close enough to Dekairu. What was that you were saying earlier about my, you can do it, attitude? Examinees number 499 and number 500, are you officially dropping out or not? Comes the impatient voice from the intercom. No, Izuku and Hiro answer simultaneously. Come on, we're tracking hot hands down. He's too irresponsible to have a license, and I want revenge. Izuku giggles, a little unhinged. That's not very heroic, Hiro. Yeah, well, neither is blowing up a pressurized gas tank. Let's go slowly and watch out for your arm. Let me handle combat, yeah? Shout out that annoying analysis thing you do while I fight. They creep along, sticking close to the maze walls. Hiro is very good at sensing when people are about to turn corners, probably something to do with his experiences as a vigilante in the city. Izuku serves mostly as a distraction while Hiro swiftly snatches the flags off anyone they encounter. They've taken out 8 people, including the kid with the heated hands quirk who Hiro has started mockingly calling oven mitts, before the loudspeakers gurgle to life, announcing only 250 examinees remaining and the end of the first part of the exam. Oh, thank God. Izuku collapses onto his knees, half delirious with pain. Around them, the maze walls retract back into the floors of the stadium, leaving them blinking at the other examinees in the sudden open space. Hiro immediately waves a nearby Public Safety Commission staffer over for help. "I can't believe they wanted me to just leave you like this," Hiro grumbles. Between him and the staff member, they get Izuku into an infirmary fairly quickly. "I can't believe they saw how hurt you were and let you continue your exam." "Maybe it was a test to see if you'd abandon a citizen in need," Izuku mumbles. Hiro undoes his quirk so they can unwrap his arm. "Nah," Hiro answers, "I think they're just assholes." He says this while looking directly at the Public Safety Commission nurse, who gives him the fakest smile Izuku has ever seen. "You're not wrong," she says cheerfully. She turns back to Izuku. "You're lucky I'm on staff today. I'm the only one on the team who can heal broken bones like this. Just give me a second." The nurse pulls out a comically large water jug from a nearby fridge and proceeds to chug it. She drains it in record time. "My quirk takes the energy from breaking the bonds in water and converts it into something I can use to heal," she explains, pulling out more water. "It does produce a lot of hydrogen gas and oxygen, so if either of you have any kind of combustion quirk, please refrain from using it or we'll all explode." Izuku is fascinated, but he is also in an incredible amount of pain. He manages to weakly say, "That's such a cool quirk," before he goes back to breathing deeply and trying not to pass out. The nurse fiddles around with some equipment. At some point she has to set Izuku's arms so the bones heal correctly, at which point Izuku does pass out for a bit. When he comes to, he's surrounded by a small team of medical professionals, plus Hiro and Yakumaru-san. "Oh, good," Yakumaru says when he sees Izuku open his eyes. "You're alright. It would look very bad if All Might Sponsee died on my watch. Are you good to do the next part of the exam?" "His arm was pulverized," Hiro says, staring at Yakumaru in disbelief. "The nurse said it was broken in like 20 places. And he did it to prevent an explosion that would have killed me and several other examinees." Yakumaru blinks sleepily. "You signed a waiver before taking the exam." Hiro opens his mouth, probably to verbally destroy Yakumaru and the entire HPSC. Izuku interrupts quickly. "I'm fine," he says. He experimentally flexes his fingers, pleased to find that they only ache a little and are otherwise fine. "Wow, it's good as new." "It's really not," the nurse from earlier says. "My quirk makes your bones more fragile and prone to shattering for a little after use. Don't break it again within the next week or you might actually explode your arm." Izuku's jaw snaps shut. "Oh, okay. The second part of the exam already started." "What?" Izuku leaps out of bed, startling the medical team. Everyone ushers him back in, checking over his arm again warily. "As I was saying," Yakumaru glares, "it has already started, but you have the rest of the afternoon to complete it. Take as long as you need." "What huh?" Izuku looks at Hiro for answers, who just shrugs, also looking lost. "Since you missed the explanation, I'll just give you the basics. It's a rescue simulation. There are rescue scenario booths set up around the stadium with different pro heroes running simulations at all of them. Pick up a stamp card on your way in. Get stamps from any 3 booths and turn them into a test proctor and you pass." Izuku blinks. "That's it? That's it." Yakumaru yawns. Okay." Izuku looks at the medical team. "Am I free to go then?" They fuss over him a little, pressing a water bottle and a granola bar into his hand before sending him off. Izuku manages to ask the nurse a couple questions about her quirk before Hiro drags him away. The walk through the dark stadium hallways is silent until Hiro speaks up. "So, your sponsor is All Might? Didn't think to tell me that you had the #1 hero backing you up, huh?" Izuku swallows guiltily. "I didn't think it mattered that much." Hiro barks out a laugh. "Didn't matter? Kid, I basically spent the first hour insulting you and doubting your capabilities. I had no idea you had All Might vouching for you." Suddenly, Izuku is angry. Because, yeah, did kind of SCK that Hiro was unfriendly at first. And Izuku was very annoyed that he was constantly making jabs about his age and his ability to take care of himself. Izuku has spent his whole life having people look down on him, assuming that poor little quirkless Midoriya Izuku can't help himself. But Izuku proved them wrong. He proved Hiro wrong by talking back, by holding his own against the porcupine girl, by saving his life. Why is it only now that Hiro knows Izuku's pro-sponsor that he's suddenly apologizing for being a condescending a-hole? I don't see why it matters, Izuku snaps, considering I was still able to pass the first part of the exam regardless of who my sponsor is. Would you have trusted me more if I told you from the start? Honestly, yeah, Hiro admits. Then he sighs, reaching out a hand to rest on Izuku's shoulder to stop him before he steps into the main stadium area. Hey Midoriya. I'm sorry, okay? You're right, who sponsored you doesn't matter, only that you were a good enough hero to pass the exam. I really didn't mean it like that. All the tension runs out of Izuku. Thanks. I didn't. I mean, I'm proud that All Might chose me of all people, but I don't know. I get it, it's alright. You want to stand on your own, right? Not exactly, because Izuku can't picture a future in which he isn't always in All Might's shadow. He nods anyway and Hiro leaves it at that. They step into the center of the stadium, blinking in the light. Wow. Hiro lets out a low whistle. They really gamified it, huh? It's like some kind of fair or carnival. Lining the perimeter of the stadium are a series of brightly colored booths with variously sized crowds and equipment surrounding them. Lesser-known pro heroes are manning the booths, standing out in their flashy costumes. Izuku can see several artificial environments, ranging from a rock wall to a mini glacier to a crumbling building. Directly across from them, in the center, is a medical tent set up and Izuku can see the famous youthful heroine, Recovery Girl instructing examinees on how to perform CPR. This is the best day of my life, Izuku whispers, eyes wide and glassy as he spots the laundry hero, Wash giving a lecture next to a big water tank with a drowning dummy in it. You literally exploded your arm like an hour ago. But look at how many pro heroes there are. Is that manual? You are terrifying, Hiro sighs, exasperated. Let's just get this over with. The two of them grab stamp cards from one of the HPSC staff members and start picking booths. They figure the three easiest to pass would be Recovery Girls, a landslide rescue simulation run by the Debris Hero, Rubble, and a rescue etiquette demonstration by one of the Wild Pussycats. Izuku takes 3 tries to pass this one, as his naturally nervous and stuttery demeanor is apparently really disheartening for victims. By the end he manages to paste on his best All Might smile and lift an actor out of the pretend rubble and to safety. Despite no longer technically being exam partners, Hiro sticks around him. Izuku doesn't point this out. He doesn't want Hiro to leave. He reminds him of Bakugo in a way, if Bakugo was less violent and more sarcastic and wasn't so mean to Izuku. So, not like Bakugo at all. Maybe he just reminds Izuku of Bakugo because Izuku desperately wants to be his friend, despite how mean he is. Izuku hurt himself with that thought. Whatever the reason, Hiro trails Izuku even after they've gotten all 3 stamps. They trade in their card for their hero licenses, but Izuku insists on visiting every single booth. It's not enough to only prepare for 3 aspects of rescue work. Plus, the pros probably worked hard on their simulations. Izuku wants to appreciate every single one of them. Hiro grumbles, but tags along nonetheless. As the day wears on, he looks to get more and more irritated, but he still doesn't leave. The last booth they visit is a rescue procedure demonstration by the Turbo Hero, Ingenium. Izuku was saving the best for last. He's followed Ingenium's career for a while now, though he wouldn't call himself his biggest fan. His agency, Ida 10, is in Hosu City, so Izuku doesn't get news around him unless he specifically looks it up online. He has one of the most interesting quirks Izuku has ever encountered. Engines in his elbows, how cool! Hi! Izuku bounces up to the booth. By now, most examinees have gotten their 3 stamps and left, so it's just Izuku, Hiro, Ingenium, and an Ida 10 intern hovering just inside the booth. Hey there! You want to learn about Rescue Order of Operations? Yeah. Ingenium's lecture is very interesting. He very clearly outlines the procedure steps for rescues and even entertains Izuku's million what-if questions. He's the first pro hero today to speak to Izuku like an equal. When he calls Izuku little hero, Izuku almost cries. He's getting major Big Brother vibes from him. Alright, I think that's all I can teach you for today, Ingenium says, wrapping up his talk. Stamp cards? Oh no, Izuku explains, we finished the stamp card a while ago. I just wanted to hear your presentation. Ingenium blinks, stunned, before bursting into laughter. He turns to call out over his shoulder, Tenya, this kid is just like you. The IDA 10 intern that was previously sorting out paperwork snaps his head up at Ingenium's voice. What was that? Ingenium grins widely. He takes off his helmet, revealing a young, handsome face. He gestures to the intern to step forward and places a hand on his shoulder. This is my brother, Ida Tenya. I think you two will get along. Hello. Ida Tenya bows quickly. My name is Ida Tenya. I attend Some Junior High and I'm in my 3rd year. Izuku's eyes widen. The family resemblance between Ingenium and Tenya is striking. Whoa, I didn't know Ingenium had a brother. And we're the same year too. Both Idas look at Izuku with shock. From a age. Yeah. 3rd year at Aldra Junior High. That's very surprising. Oh my god, you really are a kid. Behind him, Hiro chuckles in amusement. Izuku shrugs, now a little self-conscious. I got sponsored to take the exam because of, well, it's a little complicated but basically, my mentor thought I was ready, so. Wow, Ingenium says, Tenya here has been unofficially interning at my agency this year and we had to beg our parents to let him do that. You must be very driven, if you're taking the provisional hero license exams so early. Tenya says. He has a particular way of moving his hands, waving them in the air like mini karate chops. That's a very admirable trait. You've inspired me to take my own journey to heroism more seriously. Izuku blushes. And no, it's not inspirational or anything, I just needed a license before my mentor would let me work at his agency. You're going to be a pros intern too? Ingenium turns towards his brother. Tenya, you two have so much in common. Tenya nods his head in agreement. Do you also plan on attending UA, Midoriya-kun? Izuku lights up. Of course, if I can get in. Well, considering you passed the provisional license exam, I don't think UA's entrance exam will be too hard for you, Ingenium says. Izuku and Tenya speak at the same time. The written exam is said to be quite difficult. But the written? They both stop and look at each other. Izuku giggles shyly and Tenya lets out a little chuckle. See, Tenya, I told you there would be someone as nerdy as you out there. Ingenium jokes. Oniai-san, Tenya whines. Ingenium laughs good-naturedly. Maybe we can study together, sometime? Izuku blurts out, not giving himself a chance to think about it. This is the most positive social interaction he's had with someone his own age since his quirk failed to manifest. He can't let this opportunity slip by. Plus, Ingenium has been not so subtly nudging Tenya closer to him. That would be delightful. Tenya pulls out his phone and he and Izuku exchange numbers. I've tried to put together hero school entrance exam study groups, but no one at my school was interested. We should probably start soon, Izuku says. I heard the quirk history part of the exam is brutal. Tenya wrinkles his nose. History is not my strong suit. That's okay, I'm pretty good at it. I'm awful with math though. That's my best subject. Wow, you two really complete each other, Hiro drawls, catching Izuku's attention. If you're done nerding out with your soulmate, it's getting pretty late. Right. Around them, pros start cleaning up their booths and turning in any assessment materials to the HPSC team. Well, it was really nice to meet you, Ingenium. And you too, Ida-kun. It was quite serendipitous to meet you, Midoriya. I'm looking forward to studying with you and hopefully attending UA together. Yeah. Izuku grins. He waves as Hiro loses patience and starts to literally drag Izuku. But I'll text you. Hiro herds him towards the exit, more or less ignoring Izuku as he rambles excitedly about his new friend. They walk in silence for a little while. Izuku hasn't known Hiro for long, but he seems upset. Really upset but trying to hide it. Izuku has always been very empathetic, sensitive to others' emotions and able to pick up on the moods of those around him. It's a consequence of, being mercilessly bullied for years. Self-preservation? Or it would be if Izuku's fight or flight response wasn't permanently wired to fight. Hiro has been nice to him, in a sort of gruff, older brother way. Are you okay? Izuku ventures. What? Yeah, I'm fine. I think the exit is this way. It's just, you seem kind of upset. Hiro sends him a sharp look. Don't kid. Don't what? Don't get me started, Hiro says, or we'll be here for ages. Let's just find the exit and… You're upset, Izuku says firmly, and it's not healthy to bottle up your feelings. My feelings? Hiro laughs bitterly. This isn't about my feelings, it's about the fed-up corrupt way the HPSC runs itself. I mean, yeah, it's kind of, not great. But why are you so… This is why I didn't want to go legit. Hiro blows up. Look, they're understating the consequences. Half these kids have no idea how hard rescue actually is, how hard saving people is. They haven't been prepared for any of it, physically, psychologically, whatever. The first time someone dies in their arms, they're going to lose it. Izuku watches him with wide eyes. I know it's just a provisional license and they're going to get experience in the field after this, but, God, really? A dumb little team maze? Fucking festival of rescue scenarios? How does this test for anything useful out in the real world? Why do you think heroes have the highest mortality rate for any job? Higher than first responders and fucking bomb technicians and shit? And why do you think that rate goes up every year? It's dangerous? Izuku answers tentatively, when he's sure it's not just a rhetorical question. Villains are getting smarter? It's because the HPSC is a joke, Hiro says, eyes hard and cold. They don't standardize hero courses in any meaningful way. They're not teaching kids to be the best heroes they can be, they're giving them the bare minimum training and setting them loose into the world, hoping that sheer numbers will be enough to suppress crime. They're sending these kids out to die. Hiro pauses to look at Izuku and softens. Just look at what they did to you. Any sane adult would have stopped to give you medical attention. I didn't want any, Izuku says. They would have failed me. I needed to pass? Or die trying, right? That's exactly the kind of mentality they should be training out of you, not encouraging. Kiddo, let's be real. They saw how powerful your quirk was and decided that you could suffer in the name of having one more overpowered brat on the streets. I don't, Izuku struggles. I don't know why you're mad at me. I don't know what I did wrong. All the righteous fury drains out of Hiro. He gives Izuku a pat on the shoulder. I'm not mad at you. You didn't do anything wrong, you can't be expected to make those kinds of calls. You're a teenager, everything is life or death with you. It was life or death, Izuku says. It wasn't, Hiro says. The HPSC should have disqualified Oven Mitts for reckless endangerment as soon as they saw what he was doing. By now, they've made their way out of the stadium. Izuku can see his mom and Yagi-san standing in the parking lot by Yagi-san's car, ready to pick Izuku up. He waves at them briefly before turning back to Hiro. I think you're probably right, Izuku says after thinking about it. I mean, I always wanted to be a hero. I never really stopped to think about stuff like that. I've had the privilege of remaining ignorant, but things were different for you, right, Hiro? Hiro nods. So yeah, maybe you're right and it's all shitty and we need to tear down the whole system. But I'm not gonna just give up. And I don't think you should either. I want to change things too, but there's nothing I can do right now. I'm a toddler, remember? Yeah, Hiro snorts, I feel baby. I'm gonna be the #1 hero one day, Izuku promises, and when I am, I'm gonna call you up and you're gonna help me build a better system. Deal? Hiro doesn't exactly smile, but his eyes crinkle at the corners and his lip twitches upwards. He lets out a little chuckle and pats Izuku on the shoulder. I don't usually put my faith in infants. Izuku rolls his eyes. But I think I can make an exception for you, Hiro says, Deku. Izuku beams. Your parents are starting to look a little antsy, Hiro notes, nodding towards the parking lot. You better scamper over. Your dad looks super stressed. Izuku doesn't correct him. Are you just going to go home? Alone? Hiro nods, lips pressing into a thin line. He's an adult, so Izuku didn't really think he'd have parents or anyone waiting for him after the exam, but Izuku doesn't feel good just letting him walk away like this. Do you want to have dinner with us? Izuku blurts out. Hiro blinks down at him. No offense, kid, I really appreciate the offer, but I don't really want to have dinner with you and your parents. I kind of just want to go home, make some instant ramen, and then scroll through Twitter until I pass out. Izuku nods. Understandable, have a nice night. Hiro cracks a small smile before reaching out and plucking Izuku's phone out of his hands. Hey! Here, I'm giving you my vigilante, Hiro phone number. Call me if there's an emergency, and only if there's an emergency, got it? Got it. Izuku grins. 2 friends. In one day. That's double the amount of friends he had before this. Alright, deuces. Hiro says before he turns on his heel and power walks away from Izuku like the force of. Izuku's smile was a physical thing he needed to flee from. Izuku giggles. He bounds over to his mom and Yagi-san, waving his license in one hand. I passed. After the 3 of them gush excitedly over Izuku's new license, Yagi-san ushers them all into his car so they can go home. How did the exam go, my boy? Yagi-san asks, pulling out of the parking lot smoothly. I bet you crushed the competition. How did it feel, wielding one for all for the first time? Exhilarating, right? About that. Izuku tells them what happened during the exam. Both Yagi-san and his mom get progressively more and more quiet as Izuku continues his story. By the time Yagi-san pulls the car into their apartment's underground lot, they are both completely silent. Izuku trails off from gushing about meeting Ingenium and his little brother when Yagi-san turns off the car but no one moves to get out. Izuku. You broke your arm in 20 places? His mom asks, looking horrified. Yeah, but they healed me up. Anyway, Ingenium's brother is also... We need to go back to that. Yagi-san interrupts him. What? My boy, why did you not stop your exam? I would have failed and Hiro would have been alone. There were only a couple more people to eliminate. I mean, I kind of had a feeling it would be too much, but I didn't know it would break my arm. Did one for all feel that powerful the first time you used it? No, Yagi-san says firmly. No, it did not. Oh, oops. Well. No, not oops, Izuku, his mother says. You shattered your arm by throwing a rapidly heating metal gas can into the air. That's not an oops situation. I had to. Izuku defends. Someone could have gotten seriously injured. My boy, you were seriously injured. Yeah, but that doesn't count. Excuse me? His mom interrupts. Izuku has never heard her so angry. Izuku. Izuku starts, confused. What? Young Midoriya, Yagi-san says gently, what do you mean that doesn't count? You think it doesn't matter that you were hurt? Izuku. When we talked about you training with Toshinori, it was under the agreement that you would not take on more than you can handle and that Toshinori would make sure you had all the resources and guidance needed to succeed. Toshinori has kept up his end of the bargain, so why haven't you? I have. Izuku looks back and forth between them. I don't understand why you're upset. I just meant that I can handle it. I had more experience than the other examinees. I have experience in dangerous situations and I mean, I'm being trained by the #1 hero so I thought I could deal with any complications. Mom, please stop crying. Inko looks so hurt, frustrated tears welling up and spilling down her cheeks. You need to understand something, son. Yagi-san rubs Inko's back comfortingly, looking at Izuku with more gentleness than Izuku thinks he deserves for making his mom cry. You were the youngest examinee by more than 2 years. UA had no first years in the exam. Know that you had no way of knowing what one for all would do to you, but please understand how alarming it is to us to hear that you pushed on with major injuries. I could do it. I was fine, I passed. Just because you can push yourself, doesn't mean you should. I agreed to starting your training so early to prevent you from injuring yourself. My boy, do you remember why I waited months before letting you spar with me? Izuku nods. You said I didn't know my limits yet. Yes. So, we trained until you did know your limits, correct? Well, now you have more skills at your disposal as well as what may be the strongest quirk in the world. You don't know your limits anymore, which is why I said that you'd be on desk duty as my intern, remember? You need to learn your limits and learn that it's okay to notify an adult when you're in trouble. Izuku bites his lip. Izuku, your health is just as important as anyone else's, his mom adds, drying her tears. I just don't understand how you can think otherwise. I hurt someone. The villain that tried to rob Yagi-san's store. I broke his hands. Just thinking about it makes Izuku nauseous. I don't ever want to hurt someone like that again. I'd rather it was me. Yagi-san looks horrified. That was almost 2 years ago. Have you been holding on to the guilt this whole time? Izuku doesn't say anything, which is an answer itself. Yagi-san sighs. You are so competent at being a hero that sometimes I forget about how young you are. That's my fault. Young? Izuku, this is something that you're going to need to learn. People will get hurt, that is inevitable. You have a certain responsibility as a hero to do as little harm as possible, but sometimes it's unavoidable. If you need to make a choice between someone who is actively causing others harm and yourself, you need to choose yourself, my boy. How can you expect to help others if you yourself are incapacitated? Izuku hangs his head. I admit that I also have a dangerous self-sacrificing attitude. I tried my best to steer you away from that line of thinking, but I can see I failed. I don't want to be like those heroes that do more bad than good, Izuku mumbles. Endeavor's statistics on property damage and captures resulting in death are... You are not Endeavor. You are Midoriya Izuku. Your mother and I have watched you grow, so trust us when we say that you could never be like that. Your heart is too big. Inko sighs. I can see that this is going to take a while to sink in. Izuku, please come to us the next time you're feeling guilty. Remember how we deal with your anxiety? What the therapist said about support pyramids. If you don't want to talk about it with Tashinori or I, then at least tell us so we can find someone you can talk to. Okay. We are going to work on this together, as a family, Inko says, patting Yagi-san's shoulder. Okay. Of course, Inko. Okay. Yagi-san lets out a heavy sigh. Seriousness aside, I am very proud of you. Congratulations on your license, my boy. Thanks, Izuku says, cracking a small smile. Let's get inside, Inko says, popping the car door open. I have some katsudon to prepare. Izuku perks up. Katsudon. Yagi-san and Inko exchange a look, chuckling fondly. Ida and Izuku end up meeting up at least once a week to study. Sometimes they go running or to the gym together, but most of the time they end up in the library or a cafe going over the UA entrance exam material. Studying with Ida is surprisingly fun. He was stiff and overly formal at first, but once they found out just how much in common they had, they fell into an easy friendship. It turns out Ida has read a lot of the same quirk theory books Izuku has. As a kid, he was curious as to why his quirk manifested in his calves while his brother had his engines in his elbows, which led him down the rabbit hole of quirk theory and quirk genetics research. Izuku shared his own experience of being quirkless and was happily surprised when Ida didn't seem put off by it. There's nothing wrong with being quirkless, Ida says when he notices Izuku getting teary-eyed while sharing his story. Quirkless people are just as capable as those with quirks, sometimes even more so. I once read this article about a woman whose quirk erased her own memory every few days. Despite all the hype and the jumble of nerves that made its home in Izuku's stomach every time he thought about it, his first day on the job at the mighty agency goes very well. He spends most of the day running around with various managers and handlers, getting a feel for the building and the various secretaries and other personnel working there. Everyone who works for All Might are under very strict non-disclosure agreements, but Yagi-san and Inko both agree that Izuku would be safest if he wore a face mask while he was there. He picked a soft cloth mask with little repeating All Mights on it. The staff seem to like it from the way they keep cooing at him and calling him adorable. Yagi-san, puffed up as All Might, just smiles and shakes his head. He gets his own office, which Izuku thinks is absolutely wild. It's tucked into a little corner on the same floor as Yagi-san's office, completely decked out with a large desk, filing cabinets, and an adjoining door that leads directly to Yagi-san's. 2 of the 4 walls are made completely of glass, showcasing downtown Mizudafu. Yagi-san assures him that not only is it only see-through one way, but the glass is also bulletproof, shockproof, and generally Izuku-proof, so he doesn't need to worry about accidentally activating one for all and blowing a hole in the side of the building. He gets a couple lectures on avoiding the media and how to keep a low profile. Yagi-san sets him up with his own account on the agency's database and gives him the highest security clearance. He shows Izuku how to access any and every file he might need and then walks him step by excruciating step through writing up a villain incident report. Yagi-san tells him he'll be working with CCTV footage and police reports until he can use one for all well enough to follow him around during patrols and take first-hand accounts. It's a lot more bureaucracy than he's expecting. The highlight of his day is definitely when Yagi-san hands Izuku a case holding his brand new hero costume. David Shields, who makes all of All Might's gear, personally designed Izuku's costume based on Izuku and his mom's suggestions. His very first hero costume. And it's designed by the support gear legend and All Might's rumored ex-boyfriend, David Shield. Although now that All Might is kind of a father figure to Izuku, he feels a little weird about how many fan theories he's read debating the nature of David and All Might's relationship. He was always strictly focused on the support gear aspect of their friendship, but well, some of the shipping memes were funny. Izuku resolves to never tell Yagi-san about that corner of the internet. Can I try it on now? Izuku asks as soon as the sleek, dark green case is placed in his hands. The top is engraved with his hero name, Deku, in the same font that the mighty agency's logo is in. Underneath it is a small bunny motif. Yagi-san chuckles at Izuku's excitement. Go right ahead, young Midoriya. The locker room is down the hall. Your locker is the green one. The lock has already been programmed with your fingerprint, so you should be able to open it. Wow, so cool. Izuku trots off to the locker room, clutching the case to his chest. Izuku's locker stands at the far end of the locker room, next to a large red, blue, and yellow locker that can only be Yagi-san's. The whole place is sleek and clean, with smaller lockers along the wall probably belonging to staff members and benches along the middle outfitted with touchscreen controls. Izuku resolves to explore the function of those later, hopping over to his locker so he can get his hero costume on as soon as physically possible. As soon as Izuku lifts a finger to touch his locker, it opens outwards, metal unfolding like paper. The first thing Izuku sees is himself, reflected through the mirror covering the entire back of the locker. There's a hook slightly above eye level, probably to hang his costume up. The doors of the locker have shelves with medical supplies, compression tape and sleeves, and a couple other random things Izuku might need. Someone also took the time to stock a couple reusable All Might branded water bottles for Izuku to grab and fill up after changing. It's like an Iron Man movie, Izuku mumbles to himself. The mirror on the back lights up at the sound of his voice, the words, "Hello," glowing neon green in front of him. The interface displays the current weather, recent police code calls, and the time in the corner. Izuku reaches out and lightly taps the police codes. He gasps as the menu drops down to show a full list of crime incidents that have been called in recently and which police precincts in Mizudafu they were reported in. That seems pretty useful. He wants to spend more time exploring the locker's technology. He wonders if the agency would let him look at the code. Maybe he could find a way to include a humidity display, since high humidity seems to make his bones ache more than it used to. Then Izuku remembers that Yagi-san is waiting outside to see Izuku's new costume. Izuku sets the briefcase down on the bench inside the locker and pops the lid. Holy shit, Izuku whispers, eyes wide as he takes in the contents. Much like the locker, the case expands out into 3 tiers, all full of shiny, professional-grade hero costume material. First, Izuku puts on the requested Under Armour. He fits a compression sleeve onto the arm that he broke and then slips a light wrist guard on over that. His knees get light, flexible pads that should fit easily into his boots. Yagi-san, Inko, and Izuku all agreed that Izuku's role as an intern would mainly be crowd control, incident documentation, and first aid, at least until he learns to control his quirk better. They designed his hero suit with that in mind, always intending to alter it as he became a more battle-oriented hero. His current costume is designed for mobility, so Izuku knows not to expect any heavy armor or bulky guards. Izuku slips on a lightweight jumpsuit. It's made of some kind of tough but stretchy material, the color's so dark green it's almost black. It has white and neon teal accents in patterns that mirror the ones in All Might's young age costume. There's a white band on his left shoulder with a red medical cross on it. Izuku's worked hard on his online first aid and paramedic classes, and he hopes to be certified by the time All Might lets him out on the field. Next come the gloves, which Izuku is most excited about. They're white gauntlets that go up to almost his elbows, with flexibility around his wrists for movement. The fingers give way to a retractable black mesh for if he needs his fingertips to type on a data pad or take a pulse. Izuku tests out the retractability feature. Swip. The mesh retracts into the knuckles of the glove and Izuku can see his scarred, slightly crooked fingers again. He leaves them like this while he puts on the rest of the costume. The belt buckles securely around his waist and carries a small pouch for supplies and communication devices. He also gets a lightweight, flat white backpack with more medical supplies. David's shields improved upon Izuku's design and had the pack strapped to his torso with 3 horizontal buckles to reduce the chances of it getting caught on anything. It sits snugly against his back. Izuku makes a happy, giddy noise in his throat when he sees the boots. They're not red, like he wanted, but David's shields can certainly design an aesthetically cohesive costume. They're mostly plain black with a few neon aqua accents to match the rest of the suit. They're light and flexible so Izuku can dash around during fights and they go up to above his knee for support. Izuku is thrilled to find the insides are bright red, as well as the soles, like some kind of fancy designer boot. As Izuku zips up the boots and stands up fully, he catches sight of himself in the mirror. Izuku looks heroic. For the first time since this all began, Izuku feels like a hero. He pulls out his license from his wallet and holds it up in front of him, his costume-clad reflection blurry in the background. He did it. He's taking his first steps into the rest of his life as a hero. As someone who saves people. He quickly retrieves his phone from his discarded pants pocket and takes a mirror selfie, first holding up a peace sign and then a finger heart. He sends them both to his mom and then, after a lot of deliberation, sends the peace sign one to Ida. Young Midoriya, is everything oh. Izuku turns around, happy tears clinging to his lashes as Yagi-san steps into the locker room. It's perfect, Izuku breathes out. He stands differently in his hero costume, chest puffed out and shoulders back. Spine straight, grinning broadly. Like All Might. Yagi-san beams right back at him. My boy, it looks fantastic. Let's see the mask. Right. Izuku almost forgot. They decided that Izuku should try to hide his identity for as long as possible, since All Might has a lot of enemies and Izuku is pretty vulnerable as a minor. Izuku initially wanted a cowl in the shape of All Might's iconic grin, but pretty much everyone vetoed the idea. The compromise between Yagi-san's embarrassment and Izuku's insistence on an All Might-related aesthetic was a running bunny ear motif to mirror All Might's hair antennae. Please stop calling them antennae, Yagi-san begged, tugging self-consciously at his locks. They're iconic, Izuku said. For the longest time my hero stan Twitter name was Antennae of Justice. How am I more embarrassed about this than you? Yagi-san groaned. The result is a black mask that goes up under Izuku's eyes, covering his freckles. There are little horizontal slits in the material that look like whiskers. The mask extends upwards at the corner of Izuku's jaw into chunky antennae that nestle in his curls like metallic bunny ears. They cover his ears and house a communicator that will connect to All Mights while they're working. Izuku presses a button on the side of the mask and a green visor snaps up, shielding his eyes. Incredible, Yagi-san says. I hardly recognize you. Izuku turns back to the mirror. With the mask on and the obviously professionally made hero costume, Izuku doesn't look anything like the awkward, stuttering middle schooler he usually is. He just looks like a particularly short pro hero. Can we go out on patrol? Izuku begs. He takes off the mask for maximum puppy dog eye effect, looking up at Yagi-san pleadingly. Please? Just for a couple minutes. My boy, we agreed you wouldn't make any public appearances until you can use one for all without breaking any bones, Yagi-san says. Izuku pouts. Yagi-san caves almost immediately. I suppose we can stick to the rooftops so you're not seen. It is getting dark, after all. Izuku spends the next few weeks finishing up his first aid courses and training with Yagi-san at the Mighty Agency's gym. He's gotten very good at the obstacle courses Yagi-san sets up for him, but he still can't use his quirk without hurting himself. They're at the hospital repairing Izuku's bones almost every time he tries to use his quirk. After school, Izuku usually drops by Yagi-san's store to pick him up and the two of them take the train to the agency. Then they split up as Yagi-san puffs up into full All Might form and Izuku settles into his office. Now turned into a little control room with a triple monitored computer and a bunch of All Might posters on the walls. Izuku listens and watches All Might take down villains through Yagi-san's in-ear communicator and the CCTV cameras he has access to. Izuku has gotten so good at hero paperwork. It's not really a skill he can brag to anyone about, but whatever. He's amazing at incident reports. One night, Izuku is walking back home when a pair of villains decides to try to rob the Ozaki's grocery store again. By the time the police show up, Izuku has the two villains restrained with zero damage to the store, if you don't count the knocked-over shelf of chips. Detective Tsukachi gives him a very disappointed stare until Izuku pulls him aside and shows him his provisional license. You know, you're technically not acting with instruction of a hero, Tsukachi tsks, ruffling Izuku's hair. I could still arrest you. I'm sure if you called All Might he'd tell you that he definitely instructed me, Izuku says with his best innocent smile. Tsukachi scoffs, shaking his head. Yeah, you have the pro of all pros backing you up, I get it. He waves off the nearby officers and pats Izuku on the shoulder. Get home, kid. Without fighting any crime this time, okay? I can't make any promises. Izuku chirps, skipping away. It's been weeks and Izuku still hasn't gotten anywhere with using one for all injury-free. He's able to dial down the percentage he uses to 1%, which is about as much as he can handle without fully shattering his arm again. He ends up with a lot of minor fractures, but compared to the horrific state his arm was in after the license exam, it's almost nothing. On the bright side, Izuku's pain tolerance is pretty high now. Yagi-san takes every injury pretty hard. Izuku suspects he might be blaming himself for Izuku's trouble with one for all. He said he was able to wield it right away with no problems. Despite it all, he continues to come up with new ways to try to teach Izuku, including inviting a senior citizen to their training sessions. Izuku steps into the agency gym one day to find Yagi-san conversing with an old man about half his height. When Izuku comes into the gym, they both turn to look at him. Yagi-san beckons him forward. This is him, the man asks Yagi-san, eyebrows raised. Yes, this is Midoriya Izuku, my successor, Yagi-san introduces them. Midoriya, my boy, this is Gran Torino. He was a friend of my predecessor and my homeroom teacher at UA. Hello, Gran Torino-san. Izuku chirps, bowing. It's nice to meet you. Well, Gran Torino says, he certainly doesn't look like much. Izuku would protest, but he's well aware of how plain and non-threatening he looks. Then again, you weren't much to look at when Nana brought you to me, at Toshinori? Gran cracks with a smile, elbowing Yagi-san in the side. You were like a piece of paper. A stiff breeze would have blown you away. Yes, I was rather wayfish, Yagi-san grumbles. Gran Torino continues cracking jokes at Yagi-san's expense. Finally, Gran Torino seems to tire of teasing Yagi-san because he turns back to Izuku and eyes him up and down. Then, despite the fact that he's in casual clothing and is shorter than Izuku, he raises his fists and drops into a fighting stance. Fight me, Gran Torino commands. What? Izuku between Yagi-san and Gran Torino, wide-eyed. Fight you? Gran Torino-san, I don't? You've got a license. Toshinori here had to have taught you something, right? And drop the honorifics, kid, fight me. I can't, I'll break my bones. Izuku blurts out. Gran Torino lowers his fists. He squints at Izuku, trying to determine if he's serious or not, and when he's met only with earnest, doe-eyed panic, he whirls to face Yagi-san. He breaks bones. Yagi-san winces. Young Midoriya has been having trouble wielding one for all. That's why I called you in. Gran Torino makes a face. Don't you just, He throws a couple punches at the air, and boom, right? What's so hard about that? I have a theory. Izuku pipes up, shyly shifting so that Yagi-san is in between him and Gran Torino. He really doesn't want to fight him. Yagi-san said that one for all is a stockpile quirk, right? Well, when you consider just how strong Yagi-san's made the quirk in his career alone, I think it makes sense that it's so powerful. Like, All Might has been active since his debut in America about 30 years ago, and he's only gotten stronger and stronger since, minus the, incident. Anyway, I think maybe it's been feeding into itself when it gets used, like a kind of loop. Oh, thank God he has a brain, Gran Torino interrupts. Between you and Toshinori, at least one of you has some brain cells. Izuku sputters. Yagi-san is a genius. No other hero has the tactical skills and honed battle instinct as. You're really something, Gran Torino says. You seriously can't use it without breaking your bones? Yagi-san sighs heavily, looking very stressed. We've tried everything. I even used the egg in the microwave metaphor, but no matter what, the power is too much. The nurse at the hospital says if I come in with another broken bone, I can get a free checkup, Izuku says proudly. Like a stamp card. Young Midoriya, I think she was joking. Izuku frowns. Oh, Toshinori, he is precious, Gran Torino cackles. He's gonna have the masses eating out of the palm of his hand. Is he always this earnest? Just wait until you see how passionate he gets about stopping crime, Toshinori says. He's like a puppy. I'm not, hey. Izuku waves his hands as if that will stop the two old men from laughing at him. Aren't we supposed to be training or something? Right? Gran Torino rolls his shoulders and cracks his knuckles. We'll figure out the bone-breaking thing later. For now, I need to see where you're at. Fight me. I'm not going to fight you. Izuku exclaims. You don't have to use your quirk, Gran Torino dismisses. He heads towards the middle of the gym where a white ring is painted onto the floor. After receiving a nod from Yagi-san, Izuku follows. The first one pinned or out of the ring on the floor loses, Gran Torino says. He hops up and down on the ball of his feet, moving with surprising fluidity for his age. He reaches down and removes his socks and shoes, placing them neatly outside of the ring. Izuku narrows his eyes suspiciously. Yagi-san never mentioned what Gran Torino's quirk was. And something about the way he emphasized on the floor makes Izuku extra suspicious. Do you lose if you exit the ring, or if you hit the floor outside of the ring? Izuku asks, eyeing a couple boxes and half walls situated close to the ring. Gran Torino gives him an impressed smile. You lose if you hit the ground. Okay. Izuku shakes his limbs out, dropping low into a defensive stance. Okay, let's go. The only warning Izuku gets is the slight shift of Gran Torino's left leg before he's flying at Izuku almost too fast to see, curled up tight like a cannonball. Izuku yelps and drops to the mat, rolling and popping up just in time to see Gran Torino ricochet off the far wall of the gym, hurtling back towards Izuku without touching the ground at any point. Is your quirk being a bouncy ball? Izuku squawks as he takes Gran Torino's hit to his left shoulder, stumbling and just barely managing to keep himself in the ring. Gran Torino lands in the ring across from him, feet digging into the mat to stop his momentum. I'll tell you since you need all the help you can get, Gran Torino says. It's called jet. I can shoot air from my feet. That's amazing. Izuku exclaims. Does the air come from your surroundings? Can you store it for larger blasts or? Focus, kid. Gran Torino launches himself at Izuku again, but this time Izuku doesn't duck or roll. He leaps to the side, using his tumbling and parkour lessons to run along a wall adjacent to the ring, landing back inside it as Gran Torino bounces off the wall. You stealing my moves, squirt? Gran Torino asks with a laugh, pivoting again to fly at Izuku. Izuku rolls again, barely dodging as. Gran Torino grazes the top of his head. I'm here to learn from you, aren't I? Gran Torino cackles. He's perched in the rafters now, looking at Izuku from above. I forgot what it was like to have a student who actually wants to learn. You should take a page from his book, Tashinori. I graduated already, Yagi-san grumbles. He's tucked himself into a corner of the gym to avoid getting hit by Gran Torino's wild pinball movements. As the fight continues, Izuku finds the most effective strategy for avoiding Gran Torino's hits. He uses his size to his advantage, tucking and rolling to make himself as small a target as possible. He sticks low to the ground, hoping to catch Gran Torino at a bad angle and prevent him from snagging Izuku and throwing him out of the ring. Izuku throws exactly one punch, but Gran Torino is too fast. He easily catches Izuku's arm and tries to use Izuku's own momentum to launch him out of the ring. Izuku stops himself at the last moment, catching himself on his palms and springing backwards blindly. The fight drags on for what feels like ages but is probably only a handful of minutes. Izuku knows that he is in no way capable of winning this fight, but he's sure as hell not going down without a fight. Besides, Izuku has been fighting against hopeless odds for as long as he's been alive. He can last a couple more minutes in the ring with Gran Torino. Of course, as soon as he thinks that, Gran Torino flips in midair and expels a blast of air from his feet, coming back at Izuku. Izuku had grown used to the rhythm of attacks and was expecting a couple more seconds to recover while Gran Torino pinballed off the opposite wall. Izuku has no time to dodge or sidestep, he's still on the ground. He powers up as small of a percentage of one for all as he can, focusing on only his fingertips as he presses his hands to the mat and pushes himself, trying to roll away. Slam. Izuku blinks up at the ceiling, dazed. He raises his head. Young Midoriya. You alright? Izuku is clear across the gym, laying half-slumped against a wall under a whole mess of gym equipment. The mat with the ring drawn in it has a large tear where Izuku used to be, foam spilling out of it. In between Izuku and the mat is a clear path of destruction where Izuku must have flown, launched like a ragdoll by his own quirk. Ugh! Izuku groans, thumping his head back down. I did not mean to do that. Gran Torino, who hurried over as soon as he saw Izuku go flying, snorts. Clearly. Young Midoriya, Yagi-san jogs over, frantically looking Izuku up and down. Are you okay? Don't move, you might aggravate your injuries. I think I'm all right, just my fingers hurt. Izuku winces, glancing down at his fingers, which are swollen and purple. Yagi-san and Gran Torino follow his gaze. Yagi-san's brow furrows further and Gran Torino hisses with sympathy. At least it wasn't my whole arm this time. Izuku offers. He gets to his feet, rolling his shoulders and shaking. Out his legs. I think my mom packed a couple finger splints in my first aid bag. Let me go get them and then I can try again. Aren't you in pain? Gran Torino asks, looking very concerned. Yeah, a little, Izuku shrugs. I was wrong, Gran Torino says, looking at Yagi-san. He's just as crazy as you. Let's get you to the hospital, Yagi-san says to Izuku, herding him towards the door. Ah, this is the second time in as many weeks. Thank God you're under the agency's health insurance. Wait, I know someone who can help. Gran Torino pulls a cell phone out of his pants pocket. Izuku has no idea how it stayed there during the fight. She's closer than the hospital, and she might just be able to knock some sense into you too. While they wait for Gran Torino's contact to show up, they sit on one of the benches lining the gym walls and go over Izuku's moves in the fight in detail. Gran Torino praises his strategy of making himself small and rolling away, but reminds him to always keep his eyes on his opponent. Yagi-san has some things to say about Izuku's tendency to favor his right leg, which becomes obvious in drawn-out fights. Since Izuku can't take notes like he'd like to, he pulls out his tape recorder and starts filling a tape with their suggestions. The first thing we're gonna do is teach you to use less power. If you go through every hit with enough force to level a city block, you'll end up hurting yourself and others. Do you know how to moderate your power? Izuku grimaces. Yeah, but that was already only 1%. It was only so strong because I concentrated it into my fingers. Last time I used 1% with my whole arm, it only gave me a fracture. Oh yes, only a fracture, Yagi-san mutters sarcastically. Not like it gave me and your mother a heart attack or anything. Izuku looks at him sheepishly. Sorry. So, you're saying that using the same amount of power in a more concentrated area gives you more kickback than using it on a larger area of your body, Gran Torino says. He looks at Izuku patiently, as if expecting something from him. Yes, Izuku says. So, Gran Torino prompts. So, I should just keep using it in my whole arm until I can get down to fractions of a percent? Izuku says, hoping it's the answer Gran Torino is looking for. You can't just break down your power if you're gonna be fighting villains, kid. How are you gonna know how much power each person needs to be taken down? I don't. Oh. A light bulb goes on over Izuku's head. I shouldn't lessen the output, I should increase the parts of my body I use it in. There you go. Gran Torino pats Izuku's head. You think that just because the air comes out of my feet I only use my feet to fight? Use your whole body. Your quirk should be an extension of yourself. Ah, why didn't I think of that? Izuku whines, momentarily forgetting himself and accidentally using his broken fingers to brush his curls out of his eyes. I should be distributing one. For all throughout my whole body. When you activate your quirk you direct it to the limb you're using to attack, right? Try just passively activating it in your whole body without moving to strike. I'll try it now. Izuku jumps up, reading himself. Both Gran Torino and Yagi-san place hands on his shoulders to push him back down into the bench. Not so fast. My boy, your fingers. Oh right. Izuku frowns, kicking his feet back and forth. Gran Torino, who did you say you're? Surahiko, this better be good. Chio, it's been too long. Izuku watches as Gran Torino gets up to hug the old woman who just walked into the gym. Shizenji-sensei, Yagi says, how did you get in? Drop the sensei, Tashinori. I haven't been a teacher in a long time and you certainly aren't a student anymore. And did you really think I didn't demand access to your agency when you made me your primary healthcare provider? Of course. Still not the sharpest tool in the shed, I see, Recovery Girl teases lightly. She and Gran Torino share a laugh. Chio, I want to introduce you to Midoriya Izuku. He's Tashinori's successor and I have a feeling you will be seeing him a lot considering he has absolutely no sense of self-preservation. Our Recovery Girl. Izuku exclaims, rushing into a bow. It's an honor to meet you, again. I don't know if you remember, but I participated in your first aid booth at the provisional license exam last month. I didn't get to tell you at the time, but you're one of my favorite heroes. I based my costume's jaw guards off of your visor. Recover Girl gives him a smile as she shuffles up to him. Ah, yes, the one who almost disintegrated his bones during the exam. I see you haven't learned since then, she says, eyeing his broken fingers. Izuku flushes. I'm working on it. Yagi-san and Gran Torino are helping me. Recovery Girl's sharp gaze snaps to the two men, who automatically shrink back. It's uncharted territory. I met the kid today, don't look at me like that. Recovery Girl sighs. She gestures for Izuku to present her with his hand, which he does. He's read about her quirk online. When she was a newly debuting hero, she did a fantastic interview for Japan Medical Monthly. Izuku had to scour his library's print archives for a copy, but it was so worth it. She presses a quick peck to his hand and instantly Izuku feels his energy drained. Curiously enough, the well of power he feels from One for All feels just as full as it usually does. Izuku wonders if maybe he can find a way to redirect that energy so he doesn't get tired after healing. Recovery Girl carefully removes the splint from Izuku's finger, gently examining it. Once she deems it correctly healed, she gives his hand a little pat and then reaches into her purse and pulls out some gummies. Eat these, they'll restore your strength, she says. Then she turns back to Yagi-san and Gran Torino. I'm assuming you want me on call for his training sessions. Jason nods. Guiltily. We've been going to the hospital, but they don't understand One for All, so. You should have called me. In any case, Gran Torino says. I'll be in town for the rest of the week. We'll see if I can't get him to at least be able to use the DMN quirk without hurting himself. No more broken bones on my watch, got it, kiddo? Izuku finishes chewing his gummy before he answers. The nurse at the hospital said that when you break bones they grow back stronger, so my bones should be, like, super strong now, right? Recovery girl gets a pained look on her face. Please don't break your bones on purpose to make them stronger. I won't. I'm just saying. I'm guessing Mirai doesn't know about him? I'll figure out how to tell him eventually. Better do it soon, Toshinori. That kid's going places fast. After that, Izuku meets with Gran Torino every day after school. There are a couple false starts, but Izuku only breaks his pinky once before he's able to fully distribute one for all throughout his body. Izuku gets so excited he accidentally launches himself into the ceiling, which, ouch. It leads to the discovery that he's slightly more resistant to damage when he's fully wreathed in one for all. Izuku has decided to call this full cowling, which Gran Torino teases him for. He says that Izuku is just as dorky as Yagi-san was in high school, but Izuku chooses to take it as a compliment. Things are going well. Izuku enjoys his training with Gran Torino so much that, after some begging, Gran Torino decides to stay in Mustafu for the rest of the month. He trains with Yagi-san until he needs to go on patrol as All Might, then he works on his intern assignments until it's time for him to train with Gran Torino. He's finishing his homework on time, he's talking to his therapist again, minus all the one-for-all stuff, and he's even making time to hang out with Ida. As usual with Izuku's life, this is when things start to get messy. The day the HPSC releases the updated Provisional License Registry is absolute chaos. The Pro Hero Registry has always been public, but 10 years ago, in an attempt at full transparency with the public, the HPSC started adding in provisional license holders as well as rescue responders and reserve hero license holders. Japan's Board of Registered Heroics has a publicly available, searchable site where you can look up license numbers, license suspensions, and any red flags surrounding a license holder. It was modeled after the system used for registered nurses, something Inko always brings up smugly. The update of the registry is almost always newsworthy. Media companies usually have specialized journalists whose entire job is checking the registry for any scandals. Izuku remembers when a huge story broke a couple years ago because Charmer's license was suspended for accusations of embezzlement. His hero agency had tried to cover up his absence over the past year with claims of bad health, but once the registry updated with the flags on his license, the truth came out. It was the biggest media storm of the decade. Until now. Izuku's phone wakes him up at 7 a.m. on the one day of the week he's allowed to sleep in. It buzzes like a box of bees on his nightstand as every All Might-related news source he has receives notifications. The Google alerts he has set for All Might news fill up his lock screen. His Fans of Might Discord server is having a meltdown. Izuku's eyes widen. He quickly gets out of bed, picking up his phone but not daring to unlock it. He goes into the living room and flips on the TV, opening up the morning news. Please be safe, Izuku begs. I saw Yagi-san last night, there's no way something could have happened. It turns out, Izuku should have been more worried for himself. Breaking news. Reporter Miyagi says, the Pro Hero Registry updated just minutes ago and is already making headlines. Number 1 hero All Might seems to have sponsored an intern in the last Provisional Hero License exams. The registry indicates that a young hero by the name Deku has. The rest fades away to static in Izuku's head. That's him. They're talking about him. Since not much is known about this mysterious intern, Deku is listed to be just 14, according to their profile on the registry. Now, All Might is notorious for not taking on any interns or sidekicks and is currently the only single hero agency in Japan. Let's go to Pro Hero expert Shimizu Akihiro for his analysis on the situation. The screen splits into two as Miyagi and Shimizu discuss what All Might's new intern could mean for the country as a whole. Izuku buries his head in his hands and screams. It's not that bad, right? The only publicly available information should be his sponsor, his age, and his hero name. They don't have his real name, at least, so he and his mom should be safe from any villains or reporters that want to track them down to their home. They don't even have his quirk name, so it's impossible to search for him through the quirk registry. It's fine. It's fine, it's great, everything is going to be. Young Midoriya. Yagi-san is pounding on Izuku's front door. Izuku bolts to the door, flinging it open and throwing himself into Yagi-san's arms. What do we do? Izuku asks frantically. Yagi-san, they're talking about me on TV. Izuku is so panicked he can't even be embarrassed about Yagi-san gathering Izuku up in his thin arms and carrying him back into the living room. Yagi-san deposits Izuku on the couch and folds himself down next to him, both of them talking over each other. Inko emerges from her room, drawn out by all the commotion. She takes one look at the two of them and sighs heavily, shuffling into the kitchen. 5 minutes later, Izuku and Yagi-san are still trying to reassure each other that everything is perfectly fine when Inko shuffles back into the living room with tea for all three of them. Okay, what's going on now? She asks. Remains calm even as Izuku and Yagi-san's voices crash over her like a distressed tidal wave. Inko, I am so sorry. They're saying awful things about All Might. It's not your fault, my boy. Mighty News Weekly is calling it a PR disaster. Should have applied for the information to be classified. Inko pinches the bridge of her nose. Again. Communication skills, you too. Izuku makes a distraught noise and gestures to the TV. The morning news is running a chirin on the bottom of the screen reading, Deku, the end of the symbol of peace? Oh dear, Inko murmurs. Hero Herald at Hero Herald _mu, 12M. At All Might official sponsors 14-year-old protege. Does this mean the symbol of peace is retiring soon? Read our breakdown here, bit.ly9kji2. 12.9k retweets, 89 quote retweets, 30k likes. David loves Hawks at Merkigos, 14M. Is anyone else super concerned that the HPSC approved a child to the prov exam? UA is already problematic for letting first years take it. Kigo has hinted at how HPSC took advantage of him as a kid and now Deku is going through the same thing. 9.8k retweets, 782 quote retweets, 5k likes. Crime Fighters beat at Crime Fight Mag, 15M. Here's what we know about at All Might official S new intern, Deku. bit.ly8ok9l. 32.9k retweets, 124 quote retweets, 59k likes. Live at Hero Kantayo at All Might's thighs, 20M. Does anyone actually know if Deku is All Might's new intern? Is it confirmed? Maybe he's just a kid's friend and All Might decided to sponsor him, we don't know. All Might publicly announced he would stop taking interns and sidekick applications after Night I, so why? 11.9k retweets, 602 quote retweets, 23k likes. Show thread. Hot Heroes now. At Hot Hero Pub, 22M. If you have any information on at All Might official S new intern Deku, send it into info@hotheroes.com. We will provide payment. 14k retweets, 987 quote retweets, 9k likes. Kimmy, semi-IA for school, at Genus Best, 23M. No, not All Might trending WW for endangering a child skull, maybe if he stand Luna. 2k retweets, 7 quote retweets, 7.3k likes. Tamura, it seems you may have a rival. Izuku is already walking to school the next day by the time he musters up the courage to check his phone. He ignores all the news notifications and Discord messages and goes straight to Ida's texts. Ida Tenya. Person running lightskin. Yesterday, 7:11 a.m. Midori Yakuin. You are all over the morning news. I read the paper over breakfast and the front page of the Hosa Herald is about you. Well, it was about your hero persona, rather. I apologize for double texting. I am sure you're busy with your agency's PR team. Please let me know when you get a free moment. I would like to call to check in on you. Me? 8:23 a.m. No need to apologize. I'm very grateful you're checking up on me at all. Yeah, it's kind of crazy over here right now. I don't plan on revealing my identity for a long time, so PR just told me to keep my social media private and to not get caught going into the agency building, which is going to be difficult since I work there, but All Might said he'd find a way in for me. And don't worry about double texting. I do that all the time, laughing face, I'm doing it right now. Triple texting even. Ida Tenya. Person running light skin tone. 8:24 a.m. I see. As I am not officially registered as an intern for iDayton, I've not yet had to meet with our PR team, but I imagine it was quite overwhelming. Again, do let me know when you are free. The entrance exam date is approaching, and I still cannot for the life of me remember anything about the Cork regulation laws prior to this century. Thank you for your patience as I figure out text messaging etiquette. I have never had a friend to text before you. Me? 8:24 a.m. Ida Cohen. You're my first real friend too, laughing face. I'm free Saturday afternoon. Maybe if we finish reviewing early we can spar? I'll ask All Might for the agency gym's key, laughing face. Ida Tenya. Person running light skin tone. 8:24 a.m. I look forward to it. Read 8:24 a.m. Izuku really should have seen this coming. Duh, Midoriya. Izuku flinches, automatically turning on his heel so his back isn't to his opponent. Bakugo doesn't bother slowing his momentum as he sprints towards Izuku. He barrels forward, shoving him up against a wall. What? Bakugo hisses out, low and absolutely terrifying, the actual F-dash? Keikaken IC can explain. Izuku looks around frantically. It's after school and most kids are walking home or to the train station. None of them look in their direction, already used to the familiar sight of Izuku getting the sheet kicked out of him. Not here. Bakugo growls but steps back. He grabs the sleeve of Izuku's blazer and marches him down the street, pulling him into a fairly secluded overpass. Talk, Bakugo barks. Oh God. Izuku has no idea what to say, and the longer he mumbles and fidgets, the angrier Bakugo seems to get. I don't know what this is about, Izuku says finally. This is, evidently, the wrong thing to say. Bakugo's hands spark dangerously, popping and fizzing. Do you think I'm effing stupid? Bakugo hisses. Hero Deku, are you kidding? You're fucking lucky no one around here pays attention to you. You're lucky I'm the one who figured this sheet out. Any other extra would have already sold your name and address to the fucking vultures on the news, you absolute dumbass. I figured no one would remember that you call me that. Izuku says, nervously edging away from Bakugo's detonating hands. Oh, you figured, huh? And what, you thought that I was dumb enough to forget too? I don't think you're dumb, Kaken, Izuku says automatically. Bakugo makes a sound like a kettle on a stove and suddenly Izuku isn't afraid anymore. Because, well, this whole thing completely FANG blows. Izuku is, what did Hero Weekly say the other day? He's the youngest person in 10 years to get his provisional license, and the first person under 18 to get his license without being enrolled in hero school. He's been All Might's intern for a. He handles sensitive villain case information and trains with Gran Torino, an actual Silver Age of heroics legend, and has a quirk with enough raw power to blow his limbs off. And here he is, getting yelled at by a kid that used to beg Izuku's mom not to shut the lights off during sleepovers because he was afraid of the dark. Some of this newfound calm must show on Izuku's face because Bakugo, impossibly, gets angrier. How the F did you trick All Might of all people into sponsoring you? It's actually a pretty funny story, Izuku replies. I broke a man's hands. He sponsored a quirkless dipshit like you because you broke some fucker's hands. That seems overboard for a fucking charity case. I'm not a charity case, Izuku snaps back. And I'm not quirkless. Izuku may be half convinced that Yagi-san only gave him a quirk out of pity, and he may be so deeply insecure about himself and his abilities that it keeps him up at night. But like hell is Izuku going to let Bakugo believe that All Might risked his image for a charity case? Bakugo laughs cruelly. You can't still be in denial. You're quirkless, so just? Izuku activates full cowl. The thing about One for All. It's old. An ancient power passed down from person to person, stockpiling power as it went. Izuku is the 9th holder. That's 9 lives, 9 lifetimes worth of pure energy stuffed into one teenager. Izuku can always feel it buzzing under his skin, innocuous most of the time until he calls it to the surface and lets it wrap around him, lets it light him up from the inside. It raises hairs, activates people's fight or flight response, their hindbrain flashing with neon warnings of danger and wrong and run. Under the overpass, in the dark shadowy place under that bridge, Izuku ignites. He lets the electricity spark and crackle over his skin, feels the rush in his veins and the ruffling of his hair as all that raw power envelopes him. His eyes glow a toxic green. He knows this because he sees them reflected in Bakugo's, his eyes wide with fear. Izuku isn't proud of it, but it makes him feel good. It makes him feel powerful. And as soon as it flares to life in him, Izuku extinguishes it. He stands there, plain in his Gakuren with his unremarkable fluffy hair and smattering of freckles. Bakugo gapes. Izuku waits. You effendi liar. Bakugo explodes. Were you lying this whole time? All these years? Just to make me look like an idiot? Congratulations, a-hole. Let me go put on my fucking clown makeup and run around in my clown shoes, you filthy effing liar. Izuku is so tired of all the anger. He's just tired. I wasn't lying, Izuku says dully. He's disappointed. A part of him had always thought that maybe if he just had a quirk, maybe he and Bakugo could be friends again. Obviously, he was wrong, but then again he wasn't really expecting to be right. He was just hoping. Izuku always hopes for the impossible. What thief do you call pretending to be quirkless for years then, huh? You expect me to believe you just randomly manifested that sheet? Maybe I wished hard enough that the universe took pity on me, Izuku responds sarcastically. He feels so drained. Bakugo's eyes almost pop out of his face with rage. Listen here, you little. There was a villain attack, Izuku says, the lie rolling off his tongue easier than it used it, and we found out that I'd always had a quirk, it was just hidden. It didn't activate because my body wasn't strong enough to handle it. I broke my arm in 20 places the first time I used it. Izuku rolls up his sleeves to show him. The scars wrap around his arm like tiger stripes, some raised and puffy, some just hairline cracks over his skin. You can hardly see the freckles now. Honestly, up until recently I broke my arms every time I used it, Izuku admits. All Might has been helping me, since our quirks are so similar. That's why he took me on as an intern, and that's why he sponsored my provisional license. Bakugo studies the scars on his arm, eyes darting between them and Izuku's face until Izuku starts to feel uncomfortable. It's quiet for a while, just the sounds of dripping water and Izuku shifting from foot to foot as Bakugo thinks. Finally, he says something. That's bullshit, Bakugo says, infinitely calmer than he was minutes ago. I'm telling the truth. Just not all of it. No, Bakugo narrows his eyes. Something isn't adding up. You're a shitty liar, Deku. I'm not lying, Izuku says weakly. You are. Or you're not telling me something. Why should I have to tell you anything? Izuku is so tired, he's so tired, he's so tired. In between his schoolwork and studying for UA with Ida and training with Gran Torino? In between hopping around the city to observe All Might while also staying hidden and dodging cameras. Izuku has no time to just exist anymore. At night he lies awake worrying about slipping up and revealing his identity, endangering his mom. He worries about accidentally exposing All Might's secret and the societal repercussions that would follow. He worries about overdoing one for all and actually blowing a limb off. More often than not he wakes up from nightmares in a cold sweat and lies awake until dawn breaks and his phone chirps to remind him to go out on his daily run. He has been barely holding it together for so long. To his horror, Izuku starts to tear up. Why should I trust you with anything? Why do you think you're entitled to it? I'm so tired, Kaken. Why you're so horrible to me and now you're asking me to trust you with this something I can't tell anyone. My mom doesn't even know the full extent, so why, Kaken, why are you so angry at me? Bakugo watches him warily. I don't know. Izuku looks at him, utterly lost. You don't know why you're mad? No, Bakugo answers honestly. I usually don't. I just get so mad and… That sounds like something you should work on, Izuku says, not unkindly. Bakugo bristles, but he doesn't yell. He just watches Izuku wipe his tears and lean back against the wall behind him, sagging like a puppet with its strings cut. Can you trust, this one time, that I'm not doing this to specifically spite you? Can you just help me out this once? Katsuki doesn't know what to think. Deku has never asked him for help before. Only offered it, unprompted. It's weird to see him like this, earnest, ever-smiling Midoriya Izuku all worn down with stress. Katsuki has seen him shaking with fear, has seen him with tears pouring down his freckled face, but he's never seen him look this pathetic. He looks like the weight of the entire world is on his shoulders. Despite himself, Katsuki softens. You will explain it to me one day, Bakugo says firmly. Izuku counts this as a win. Take some anger management classes and I'll think about it, Izuku responds, emotionally drained enough that his usual filter is shot to hell. You talk back now? Bakugo raises his eyebrow. Interning at the most intense hero agency in Japan will do wonders for your self-confidence. Bakugo snorts. It's not a happy sound and it's not friendly, but it's also not violent, and that's all Izuku can really ask for right now. Izuku gathers himself up, readjusting his backpack on his shoulders. He turns his back on Bakugo, making his way out of the overpass. I need to go to my internship, he throws over his shoulder. I'm serious about therapy. Yeah, is all Izuku gets in return, before he's turning the corner and out of sight. The next day, Bakugo calls him Midoriya in class. It's still spit with Bakugo's usual disdain, but at the very least, Izuku knows he'll keep his secret. Now that the cat, or bunny as Yagi-san teased, is out of the bag, Izuku is allowed to be seen on patrol with All Might. He's still finishing up some of his first aid certifications, but Yagi-san says he trusts that Izuku knows enough to help people until the real EMTs arrive. Still, he instructs Izuku to hang back and keep any bystanders from getting in the way. Izuku still needs to observe and record fights like before, but at least now he doesn't need to hide out on rooftops or behind news vans. It also helps that by now he's able to use full cowling well enough to be almost as fast as All Might, bouncing around a crime scene like a bunny. Okay, maybe Yagi-san had a point there. It's Izuku's first public appearance at All Might's side. All Might is handling all the fighting, so Izuku pushes down his nervousness and does his job. He directs citizens, sparing a wave or two when they realize who he is and call out his name. After one person makes the connection, his name travels through the crowd like a wave. People take him seriously when he directs them to stand back. A high school girl is hit with a stray piece of debris and Izuku quickly tends to her wound, managing to remain calm the whole time. He makes a mental note to send the wild pussycats a thank you note. Their advice during the provisional licensing exam is really coming in handy. The poor villain that decided to challenge All Might is taken down relatively quickly. Yagi-san taught Izuku to always try reasoning if it didn't seem like anyone was in immediate danger, but the villain had thrown a punch before All Might could even get a word in. The resulting fight is quick, but Izuku still makes sure to jot down as many details as he can when he's deposited the injured girl with the paramedics. It's as he's standing near the edge of the crime scene, double-checking his notes when one brave reporter steps up to talk to him. Izuku tamps down his automatic panic. You're Deku, aren't you? I am Deku, Izuku confirms, grinning under his mask and hoping his smile shows in his eyes. Everything's going to be okay. All Might has the situation under control, so please step back while he completes his arrest. The reporter gapes at him, like she didn't really expect him to be Deku. She fumbles for her tape recorder, moving it at Izuku's face. Would you mind giving me a statement? Introduce yourself to the world. Izuku looks over his shoulder. All Might is already cuffing the villain, so he figures it's safe enough to talk to her. He looks back at the reporter and immediately forgets all the PR training he's had. Izuku says dumbly. Hello, I'm Deku. He gives a dorky little wave before realizing it's a recording and no one besides the reporter will see him. He winces and awkwardly lowers his hand. I'm, Just here to support All Might. Please respect my privacy until I become an official sidekick. The reporter latches onto that. So, All Might intends to take you on as a full sidekick? I have to go, tend to some wounds, Izuku says, quickly escaping to a very obviously uninjured All Might. All Might raises his eyebrows, bending at the waist so Izuku can speak to him. God, he really is so tall. What's wrong, Deku? You seem flustered. All Might, I messed up, Izuku whispers. I accidentally implied that I'd be your sidekick in the future to that reporter over there. All Might's grin stays in place, but his brow furrows slightly. But, of course you'll be my sidekick. I'd even say you'll be promoted sooner than you think. But, we didn't talk about? Izuku bounces with barely contained joy. Oh my god, I'm gonna be your sidekick. All Might laughs, a great booming noise that echoes down the city streets. He ruffles Izuku's hair with one of his large, calloused hands and Izuku playfully swats at him. My boy, how many times will I have to tell you that I intend for you to succeed me? Probably 1,000,000 before I start to believe it, Izuku answers honestly, giving him a sheepish grin. Deku's first appearance in public. Just who is All Might's new pint-sized intern? By Kurihara Yuka for Musudafu Times. Musudafu, and all of Japan, was blown away by the surprise appearance of All Might's new intern, Deku, this Saturday. The heroes were seen taking down a minor villain in downtown Musudafu around noon. Deku, pictured below, seems to be a medical support-oriented hero, which begs the question, why go for a provisional license and not a support license? Lady call me at Irenistons, 2H. Ngiti is tiny. Look at the way he hops around and how quickly he took care of the bystanders and that girl that got hit by debris. We stan. Video of Deku assisting All Might and administering first aid. 193k retweets, 890 quote tweets, 208k likes. Replies. Maruko says trans rights. At Rabither wife, 1H. Hit tweet oomph. Also, even though he's wearing a mask, you can practically hear the smile in his voice while he helps that girl. How adorable. A mini All Might. 1 retweets, 0 quote tweets, 3 likes. Zyra stream life goes on at Edshot, 1H. Mini All Might, Mini Might. 83k retweets, 298 quote retweets, 103k likes. Japan trends. 1 trending. Mini Might. Trending with All Might, Det. 2. Trending. Jimin. 10.7k tweets. 3. Trending. Small Might. Trending with Dem Mini Might. In downtown Tokyo, on the top floor of an expensive high-rise office building, a group of executives plan. Deku might be the best thing to happen to the Hero Public Safety Commission, if they can get their hands on him. To say Izuku is overwhelmed would be a severe understatement. By the end of the week, the mighty agency's PR team has completely flipped their stance on Izuku's public appearances. Yagi-san still insists Izuku keep patrols to a minimum to reduce the likelihood of him getting hurt or cornered by the media, but PR manages to negotiate him up to at least 1 public patrol every 2 weeks. Izuku immediately leaves all his All Might stan group chats and Discord servers. He starts to feel weird about it when the other mods, some of whom he's known for years, start to stan Deku. PR agrees that having his own social media accounts would be a bad idea at this point, but they do buy the @ProHeroDeku handle from some random Twitter user for future use. They end up tweeting something from All Might's official account about respecting Deku's privacy and calling it a day. This, of course, just makes the media more desperate for Deku content. In an attempt to hide from the media, Izuku ends up doing a lot of background work again. He files police reports, combs through fight footage, cleans up property damage. This is how he ends up meeting his second platonic soulmate. Excuse me? Are you the mighty agency's representative? Izuku tears his gaze away from the destroyed building to find a girl, about his age, striding towards him. She's shorter than him and has brown hair cut in a cute little bob. She's also terrifyingly efficient. My name is Uraraka Ochako, with the Uraraka Construction Co. She introduces herself. My parents had to attend to one of our other properties, but I am more than capable of handling any questions or concerns you have. Oh, hi, hello, I'm Deku. Uraraka cracks a small smile. I know. Alright, of course. Izuku is, after all, in full hero costume. It looks like it's just us today. I handle the insurance paperwork at the agency, so... It's nice to meet you, Uraraka says. To be honest, I was really nervous. I thought I'd have to deal with some stuffy old person talking down to me, but I've seen you on TV. We're the same age, aren't we? I think so. Izuku smiles hesitantly and hopes he can at least see it in the way his eyes crinkle over his mask. I know what you mean. You have no idea how many people talk down to me. They tour the destroyed building site for an hour, Uraraka pointing out concerning areas and giving Izuku estimates on material and labor rates. The mighty agency is one of the only hero agencies in Japan that hires small, private companies for property damage instead of handing it off to the HPSC. Izuku had no idea why up until now. It's obvious that Uraraka is trying to give the agency a fair price while also making sure her company is taken care of. It must be a pretty small company if they're sending their teenage daughter to negotiate, after all. Yagi-san said it's important to support small businesses, especially since they're statistically more likely to be victims of villain attacks. Uraraka and Izuku manage to keep it professional as they assess damages and work out a payment plan. However, Izuku completely loses his cool when he discovers her quirk. We need to see how much piping is under this slab, Izuku says. They're standing in front of a large concrete slab, which crushed some major plumbing structures when the building went down. I could lift it if you want to take a look. Here, we can both take a look. Uraraka looks around, confirming they're alone. Then she touches the slab of concrete. It floats up, as if gravity just decided it didn't apply to the slab anymore. Izuku gapes as the mess of destroyed pipes underneath is revealed. Uraraka hums thoughtfully. Yeah, we'll probably need to completely redo the... Deku, are you okay? Your quirk is so cool. Izuku completely ignores the pipes. Do you have a weight limit? Does it float anything you touch, or does it have to be an inanimate object? Can you float people? Is it floating, or are you creating some kind of invisible suspension? Uraraka flushes under the attention. She presses both hands together, all 10 fingers touching, and the slab falls with a heavy crash. Technically not supposed to use it on the job, she admits sheepishly. I don't have a public quirk use license, but I figured it would be okay. It is. Izuku rushes to reassure her. I won't tell, I promise. I just think your quirk is so amazing, and wow, it must be pretty useful for construction, right? My dad has a similar quirk. He got his work-related quirk use license and started the company right out of high school, but he won't let me get my own license, so I'm kind of stuck to just using it when no one's looking. That's too bad, Izuku says sincerely. I can think of, like, a million applications. Uraraka, you could probably do just about anything you want. Uraraka's eyes widen and she looks away quickly. Izuku immediately feels awkward. Was that a weird thing to say? He talks to Ida that way all the time, but then again, Izuku has a feeling that Ida's socialization skills might be even worse than Izuku's. Izuku quickly changes the subject, ushering them through the remaining tour of the destruction site. When they loop back to their starting point, Uraraka turns to him. Before you go, Uraraka says, looking shy for the first time today, see, can I ask you something? I, can't tell you my name or introduce you to All Might, sorry. Oh my god, do people just straight up ask you that? No, I know you probably have to keep a lot of secrets. I was just going to ask you about being a hero. Oh, yeah, I can answer that. Sorry for assuming the worst. Uraraka waves a hand. Nah, don't worry about it. I'm sure you get a lot of nosy reporters, and anyway, it was really nice what you said earlier about me being able to do anything. I wanted to ask about your experience with All Might because I'm planning on applying to hero school. Really? Me too. You still need to go to hero school? Whoa, I thought you were like a full pro already. Nope. All Might said there's a bunch of stuff I can't learn from just one hero, anyway. Were you planning on applying? I really want to go to UA. Oh, same. Uraraka's eyes sparkle with excitement. I mean, I'll go anywhere that'll take me, but UA has the best scholarship program and plus 13 works there. You like 13? They're amazing. Definitely one of the top rescue heroes to ever work in Japan. Oh, I once read an interview where they talked about how their quirk worked underwater. By the time Izuku and Uraraka finish gushing about various rescue heroes, the sun is threatening to set over the horizon. Izuku wants to be her friend so bad, but he knows he's not supposed to give out his contact information when he's in costume. She asks him so many interesting questions about heroics and offers her own thoughts on collateral damage and who should be held responsible. Izuku feels like they could talk forever. They do part ways eventually, and as soon as Izuku's back at the agency, he emails her the relevant documents for her company's work. In his excitement, Izuku accidentally makes a typo in the body of his email. Uraraka emails him back with the proper documents from her end, and then sends a separate email that's just a repeat of Izuku's typo 20 times. It makes Izuku laugh, all alone in his office, dozens of meters above downtown Mizudafu.